I stare up at the ceiling from under the water, small bubbles floating up towards the surface. My chest is beginning to ache with the lack of air and the water is much too cold by now, but I'm not ready to get out of the bathtub. It's such an odd luxury, a bathtub. I've come to depend on it to an almost ridiculous amount over the last few months. I like the comfort of it, the fact that if I fill it completely I can actually swim in it, that it's something that doesn't remind me of anything in the games. And I love that the water can be so hot it hurts my skin, that I can scream with my face submerged and no one will hear, that I could easily drown myself and be done with the guilt and the nightmares and the pain. But, as I do now, I always end up breaking through the surface, choking and gasping and drawing in air desperately. I don't know if it's because I owe my life to the friends I've lost and can't stand the idea of throwing that gift away, or because I'd break Mum and Katniss by dying, or if it's just a selfish, primitive need to live. I like to think it's not the latter. I climb out of the water and wrap myself in a huge, fluffy robe, wandering about the giant house I still haven't gotten quite used to. Katniss is at school, just like Rory, Livia and Estelle. Mum's seeing patients and I wasn't allowed to come today, because she's not sure how long it'll take and I have to wait around for my team. And with Effie being on the train with everyone else, I don't even have our almost daily phone calls to distract me today. Even Buttercup deserted me in favor of going off to hunt somewhere. I get dressed, grab some food and march over to Haymitch's house. It was a total dump when I first set foot into this place. I talked him into hiring Livia's mum as housekeeper, so now my mentor doesn't live in a dump any longer and my friend doesn't have to take out more tesserie. Hazel comes by twice a week, too, to cook and collect the laundry. I myself drop by almost every day, to make sure he eats and doesn't drink himself into a stupor. He never stays sober, but at least he mostly remains responsive for my sake. At least twice a month Katniss will run to his house in the middle of the night and drag him out of bed because we still haven't figured out a better way to deal with my nightmares. Haymitch, somehow, helps by just being there. I'd been home for not even a week the first time it happened. Clove has me pinned to the ground, but instead of her knives, her hands are filled with berries. She shoves them into my mouth until I'm choking, her smile growing wider and wider, nightlock juice dripping from her mouth onto my face, her teeth stained red. You don't deserve to be alive. Anyone else but you should have won. Cato should have gone home. We both should have. You couldn't even save Rue. The nightlock stains turn into blood and her eyes are dead, unseeing. She pulls me against her, half a hug, half a stranglehold. Her voice changes and suddenly it's no longer Clove. I died for you, Amber hums into my ear, her blood soaking us both. Her hold tightens and tightens, pressing the air out of me, crushing my bones. Prim. Prim. Wake up, Prim, wake up. My eyes snap open and I realize I must have been dreaming, but there's still arms wrapped too tight around me and the hair resting on the shoulder I'm pressed against is brown. I scream as loud as I can, scratching, biting, fighting with all my might. Mum. Clove screams. Mum. Help. Please, Prim, stop. Mum. And suddenly reality catches up to my panic-addled brain. Katniss. Yes, little duck, she whispers, her arms loosening around me. It's me. I take one look at the bloody tracks I left on her face and arms, then I wriggle away from her, shaking violently, and crawl under my bed. I can't hurt her more here. Katniss and Mum beg and plead for me to come out until Katniss gives up and goes to collect Haymitch. He lays down on the floor next to my bed on his side and looks at me with a sad smile on his face. Sucks, huh? It really sucks, I whisper back, and we stay like that for a while, quietly lying on the floor. Then he holds a hand out to me, one eyebrow raised in a silent question. I nod and scramble over to him. Mostly I can deal with my nightmares by myself or by sleeping in Mum's or Katniss's room, but sometimes I can't pull myself out of it all, then they get Haymitch for me. Sometimes we'll talk, sometimes we'll just sit there. It helps. Haymitch is still asleep when I let myself into his house, sprawled out on the couch. Haymitch. He doesn't react, so I nudge him in the ribs with my foot. I've learned that it's better to keep your distance when waking a victor, not just from Haymitch's reactions but my own. And he, unlike me, usually sleeps with a knife in his grasp. No reaction. Get up. I yell, and when he still doesn't react, I kick him, harder this time, before jumping back quickly. He shoots up, knife in hand, his eyes wild. Then he realizes it's me and lower his weapon. "Oh. Hi, kiddo." "Hey, old man," I reply. "I brought food. And then you should probably shower. Everyone'll be here soon and you look disgraceful." "Disgraceful," he echoes with a chuckle, accepting a bread roll from me and plopping down at the table. "What, did Effie tell you to make sure I look okay?" "Shut up and eat," I say. Maybe I should at least not use Effie's exact words, and we share a quick grin. I tear my own roll up and slowly pop piece after piece into my mouth. I hate going by the bakery, but the bread is truly heavenly. Luckily, Katniss goes for me more often than not. She'll only go if Rye or Tafton are on duty, though. Meeting Mr. Mellock is just too painful, for both of us. Katniss blames herself for Peter's death as much as I do. I used to hear her some nights back in the seam, waking up shouting for Daddy to run. Now, she'll snap out of a nightmare with Peter's name on her lips every now and again. Shaking off that thought, I force myself to focus on eating. We finish our meal mostly in companionable silence, with the odd comment about this or that, and then I go back home. Mum greets me at the door with a smile that is just a little bit too wide and a voice a little bit too cheery. "You've got a visitor." "What, they're early?" I pretend not to notice that anything is wrong. Past her, I see a man who's clearly from the capital, but somehow I know that's not the visitor she's talking about. "I thought they'd be here at noon." "Oh, no, it's my mother," begins only to be cut off. "This way, please, Miss Everdeen," says the man. He gestures down the hallway. It's weird to be ushered around your own home, but I know better than to comment on it. I give Mum's hand a quick squeeze as I walk past her, my heart pounding in my throat. Surprises are never good. As I walk toward the door of the study, a door I have never even seen closed until this moment, I can feel my mind begin to race. Who is here? What do they want? Why now? "Go right in," says the capital man, who has followed me down the hallway. I twist the polished brass knob and open the door a crack. My nose registers the conflicting scents of roses and blood. Before I even enter the room, I suddenly know who I'll find. I force a smile onto my face. President Snow. What a pleasant surprise. "Pleasant surprise," he replies with a chuckle. "I think we'll make this whole situation a lot simpler by agreeing not to lie to each other. What do you think?" I nod slowly. "That seems sensible. Let's sit, then." Snow takes a seat at the large table where I always work on the assignments Madge designs for me. Only because I'm not allowed to go to school anymore doesn't mean I'm done learning. I sit down as well. The chair's made for someone taller, someone more like a Victor, so my feet dangle a few inches over the floor. I've never felt smaller or younger. The president smiles coldly. "You see, Miss Everdeen, I have a problem. A problem that began with you and has slowly infected the districts. And a little healer like you knows what we have to do, I'm sure. Keep it from spreading. Cut out the infected tissue." I swallow hard, trying to keep my voice steady as I force myself to meet his eyes. "A problem, sir." "What kind of problem?" But I know exactly what he's talking about. It began with Effie's warning right after the games and continued with the things she's mentioned on our phone conversations. Things I know she wouldn't really care about. "Isn't it just like the penthouse?" she asks on the first call, and that's when I know there's bugs here, too, and we'll have to continue our little charade. "I've ordered a sculpture," she says another time. "But it just isn't getting here." I figure it's her way to tell me there's unrest in District 2. When she says she got her order, I know they've been subdued. I write down everything she tells me, which districts are affected, how badly, all I can gather from her hints, and finally go to Haymitch with my list, handing it to him wordlessly. He looks over it and skulls. "You're not supposed to know any of this." "So I got it right," I say, and he just pulls me into a hug. "Damn it, kiddo, just keep your head down. A child like you survives everything we throw at her." Befriends tributes from other districts, Snow says, ticking of the points on his fingers, calls us unfair, challenges us and walks away safe and sound. "It gives the people ideas, Miss Everdeen." "Ideas of freedom, you mean?" I say, challenging his own proposal of not lying. I wonder if he'll stick with it. Again, he chuckles. Ideas of uprising. Of rebellion. There's a knock at the door, and the Capitol man sticks his head in. Her mother wants to know if you want tea. I would like tea, says the president. The door opens wider, and there stands my mother, holding a tray with a china tea set she brought to the scene when she married. Set it here, please. He places pats the center of the desk. Mum sets the tray on the desk. It holds a china teapot and cups, cream and sugar, and a plate of cookies. They are beautifully iced with softly colored flowers. The frosting work can only be Tafton's. Not quite as nice as Peter used to make them, but still beautiful. What a welcome sight. You know, it's funny how often people forget that presidents need to eat, too. President Snow says charmingly. Well, it seems to relax my mother a bit, anyway. Can I get you anything else? I can cook something more substantial if you're hungry, she offers. No, this could not be more perfect. Thank you, he says, clearly dismissing her. My mother nods, shoots me a glance, and goes. President Snow pours tea for both of us and fills his with cream and sugar, then takes a long time stirring. I sense he has had his say and is waiting for me to respond. I didn't mean to start any uprisings, I tell him. He raises an eyebrow at me. No, I know you didn't. But you're by no means distraught by it happening, yes? I don't answer. He knows he's right. Your stylist turned out to be prophetic in his wardrobe choice. Primrose Everdeen, the girl who was on fire, you have provided a spark that, left unattended, may grow to an inferno that destroys Panem. Well, you can't kill me, I reply bluntly. That'll fan the flames. He shrugs, as if he doesn't care. I'm merely telling you to be careful, Miss Everdeen. Don't defy me. I've done no such thing, I snap. It's a touchy subject. I don't want him to think I did anything that would make him hurt someone I love, but at the same time, I'm ashamed I haven't done anything. Amber's words echo in my mind. Make a change. I haven't even attempted it, unless you count that I try to distribute my winnings among everyone in the district. What about your little academy? President Snow asks. Oh. And that? My eyebrows knit in fake confusion. Academy. But of course, I know what he's referring to. I call it an after-school activity club, but that doesn't change that it's mainly about feeding and training up my friends and anyone else who'll attend. I had Effie check that it technically wasn't against any laws and we have no weapons or anything like that. Just sports equipment that could undeniably make handling weapons much easier. Snow just looks at me with his cold eyes until I give in. It's an after-school activity club, I say weakly. I don't go to school anymore. I have to see my friends sometime. Call it what you will, Miss Everdeen, he replies. The victory tour is your last chance to turn things around. You should take it. And with that he leaves me alone. Mum's there almost instantly. Is everything all right? Yeah, fine, I say. I'll just go check if Haymitch is getting ready. Could you and Katniss bring some food over once she's back? She nods, her face painfully pale. She knows this means I have something to discuss that I can't say here. Haymitch has rooted out most bugs in his house and knows which rooms are safe to talk in. I run from our house to Haymitch's as fast as my feet will carry me. I tell Haymitch everything. The only thing that seems to surprise him is that Snow came by personally to threaten me. He's right. You can make or break these uprisings. A rebellion is brewing either way, has been for years just under the surface, but some districts are letting themselves be calmed again. It could take years until everyone is ready to fight. Or you could rile them up. Make it happen soon. Make a change, I nod. And have them hurt my family. He lets out a barking, mirthless laugh. It's 13 years till the littlest hawthorn is out of the reaping. And you'll have kids someday. Do it now or do it never. There'll always be a reason not to. It's true. And at the moment, from what Effie says about the capital and the mood there, Snow couldn't strike right away without angering even his own people. He has to wait for the reapings and then rig it so Katniss'll go. Can I make this all happen fast enough that the fighting will be at a point that makes the 75th games impossible? Mum and Katniss come by and I tell them everything as well. Mum looks terrified but Katniss just grabs my shoulders. Do it, Prim. Okay. Do it. I don't care if they do anything to me. You can put an end to all this. No more nightmares for kids like you. No more bloodbaths. Do it. She hesitates, and then speaks quickly, as if she might lose the courage to say it. It's what Peter would have wanted. We owe him that. We'll end this. I don't care what happens to me. All I can do is nod. This what Amber wanted. What Rue's siblings deserve. It'll mean Posey has never have to have her name added into that glass ball. And Katniss is on my side. Yes, I'll do it. We can hear the sounds of commotion outside. Honking car horns, shouts of greeting, doors banging shut. It can only mean my entourage has arrived. I run out and throw myself into Effie's arms. We only get a short hug and a whispered go talk to Haymitch before my prep team drags me away to get me ready. I see Effie scuttling off towards my mentor's house out of the corner of my eye. He'll tell her what we decided. There's a lot of kissing and hugging and even a few tears before they get to work. While they primp me, they chatter on about everything and nothing. My heart clenches as talk drifts to the subject of nth quarter quell and Octavia exclaims Hermione'll have to prepare for lots of attention. He really won't be able to get a break this year. They'll replay his games again and again, he'll be the center of attention. The victor of the 25th games died a few years back, Haymitch is the only quell winner they have left. My fingers find the pin I always wear. They'll replay Maysile's death as well. Over and over. Suddenly, I'm declared to be ready and we go into the living room, where Cinna is talking to my mum and Katniss. They look to be genuinely having fun. He comes over to embrace me the second he spots me. Oh, I've missed you. And are you? He replies, kissing my forehead. How is our littlest Victor? I liked Girl on Fire better, I joke, and he laughs. Well, you better get dressed. It's a very sophisticated yet simple outfit. Black trousers and blazer over a light blue blouse. He's also brought sapphire-studded pins to keep my hair, which today falls freely down my shoulder in slight waves, out of my face. It's time to show of my Victor's talent to the cameras. I had a hard time picking something. I had originally settled on photography, but I had sucked at making the pictures artsy in any way whatsoever, and realized I didn't want to share the pictures with the capital. But I still keep my camera around and snap pictures all the time. My bedroom wall is full of them. Livia, me and Estelle messing around with makeup, Effie sent for me. Katniss and Madge laughing. Gale with Vic on his back racing Rory who's carrying Posey. Haymitch trying to scowl into the camera but unable to keep from smiling. Mum, Hazel and Madge cooking in our kitchen. Gale and Katniss building Lady's Pen. So now my talent is the piano. I've always loved music, Madge teaches me, which is fun, and I sometimes get Katniss to sing along. It's the perfect talent. Something I really enjoy, which isn't too private for me to be comfortable to share it. Just as I settle down at the piano, Effie walks in, followed by Haymitch who is scowling profusely and tugging at his tie as if it were a noose. Effie slaps his hand away with a scowl of her own before walking over to me and kissing me on the cheek. Go ahead, darling. I know she doesn't mean playing the piano. Operation Rebellion is officially Effie approved. I nod and turn my attention to the piano. I had originally picked two songs, a classical song and the lullaby I sang for Rue when she lay dying. But after Snow showed up, my plan is changed. I started with the lullaby. I see Effie clasp her hand over her mouth, Octavia silently crying, Katniss grasping Mum's arm, both of them teary-eyed. I close my eyes, focusing on nothing but my fingers playing out the tune and my lips forming the words. Without opening my eyes, I draw a deep breath and launch into the next song. A pre-cataclysm song that I probably shouldn't even know, but Madge has a whole fundus of them and has taught me some. It starts off innocent enough, so by the time they'll realize they should have cut me off, it will hopefully be too late to do it without rousing suspicion. You shout it out. But I can't hear a word you say. I'm talking loud, not saying much. I'm criticized, but all your bullets ricochet. You shoot me down, but I get up. I'm bulletproof, nothing to lose. Fire away, fire away. Ricochet, you take your aim. Fire away, fire away. You shoot me down but I won't fall. I am titanium. You shoot me down but I won't fall. I am titanium. Cut me down. But it's you who'll have further to fall. Ghost town and haunted love. Raise your voice, sticks and stones may break my bones. I'm talking loud, not saying much. I'm bulletproof, nothing to lose. Fire away, fire away. Ricochet, you take your aim. Fire away, fire away. You shoot me down but I won't fall. I am titanium. You shoot me down but I won't fall. I am titanium. I am titanium. I am titanium. Stoneheart, machine gun. Firing at the ones who run. Stoneheart as bulletproof glass. And as if the song in itself isn't bad enough already, I transition into the national anthem instead of the actual end to the song. Yet when we raise the cry, the brave will heed the call. And we will never falter. We will never falter. We're bulletproof, nothing to lose. Fire away, fire away. From a Capitolite's view, I'm being patriotic. Everyone else will see it for what it is. A call to let the rebellion begin. That was amazing, Katniss tells me as soon as the broadcast is finished, wrapping her arms around me. I'm so proud of you. Everyone else crowds around to congratulate me as well, even though not all of them understand what exactly they are congratulating me on. Octavia, Venia and Flavius are actually just talking about my performance, whereas the others get the deeper meaning to it all. But there isn't much time to dwell on any of that. Cinna bundles me up in a warm, fluffy coat with matching gloves and hat, and just like that, we're on our way to the station. Katniss and Mum get to come along, as I'm expected to say my goodbyes at the station in front of the cameras anyways. Once there, I find everyone already waiting. The camera people are pushing all around us, vying for the best shot. I try to just pretend they're not even there. All the Hawthorns have come to see me off, and Madge, Livia and Estelle, and even some of the people I only know from my after-school club. It warms my heart that so many people care and also strengthens my resolve to help free this country. They'll never have to got into the games, I'll make sure of it. Even though I won't be gone all that long, I make sure to give everyone a tight hug and kisses to those closest to me. Posey clings onto my leg all the while, making me promise to bring her a present and asking why I won't take her along. I gently explain that I can't, but that just makes her pout and stomp her feet. I tickle her until she laughs again and press a kiss to her forehead. If you came along, your present wouldn't be a surprise anymore. That, luckily, she can accept. It would have felt like a bad omen to start this whole thing with a crying Posey, not to mention the fact that it greatly upsets me when she cries, even if Rory swears she's just being a brat about not getting something she wants. The cameras are making the whole affair rather chaotic, pushing everyone around, so it takes me quite some time to say my goodbyes. Still, it allows me to accidentally get in a second hug with Rory, even though I already said goodbye to him, so I'm not exactly complaining. Even Tafton Mellock shows up, armed with a bag of cookies and an awkward hug for me and an even more awkward half smile and wave for Katniss. They have an odd sort of almost friendship based on feeling responsible for Peter's death. I think Tafton regrets not volunteering, even though nearly no one ever does and Peter wouldn't have wanted it. Then Effie ushers us all onto the train and just like that, the cameras are gone, and so's everyone I love. Well, everyone I love who isn't on my team. We go to the dining cart but the door opens before I even touch it. Surprise. Portia's standing in the doorway, smiling brightly, arms outstretched in an invitation to hug her. I immediately do. I didn't think I'd see her till the Capitol, if even then. She's not my stylist, after all. But I'm really glad I do get to see her. The rest of the day is wonderful and feels like a little reunion party. We have lots of food and joke and laugh. I show Effie, Portia and Cinna the photoalbum I've made, telling them about everyone back home, about my family and friends and even my pets. They've seen them in broadcasts before, but that's just not the same as me telling them about them. We even watch some silly Capitol shows. And when I say silly, I mean highly addictive. After only about 20 minutes, I really, Really need to know what's going to happen, even though I still barely follow the plot. Oh my god. What the, he shot his dad? I say, staring at the screen with wide eyes. Effie shakes her head. No, no, you got that all wrong. I mean, yes, he shot him and yes, that's his father, but you see, he's possessed, so. Possessed by what exactly? I demand of her. It's Haymitch who answers, though. Just your basic run-of-the-mill demonic possession. Or so we're supposed to think. But I'm telling you, that's Lucifer. Are we watching the same show? Effie says, sounding utterly shocked, turning to stare at Haymitch as if he's just grown a second head. That's clearly Elsa. I'm not even over my surprise that Haymitch not only watches Capital TV but actually has developed theories about it, when they already go on to fighting. That's right. About a TV show. She hasn't been dead nearly long enough to turn into a demon. Time passes differently in hell, you very well know that. I took that into account, she'd never give in so soon. With Azazel back in hell she might. I turned to Sinner and Portia for help, but they're only sniggering at my mentor and escort and continue eating cake, even as Effie stomps from the room in utter fury, throwing up her hands in a gesture of defeat. I cannot believe I have to work with someone who has such a profound misunderstanding of Elsa's character. Haymitch follows her, yelling something about cages and breaking seals. I turn back to the TV, but the end credits are already rolling. I roll my eyes and smile at the stylists. At least you two are professionals. Oh, they just take Transcendental very seriously, Portia says, giving Sinner a smirk. Had the runway venture been on, you'd likely see my lovely partner here throwing an absolute fit. Marcelo's designs are an abomination and an insult to everyone who has eyes. Laughing, I get myself another piece of cake and leave them to their bickering. I'm surrounded by crazy people. But hey, I'm a not yet 13-year-old girl planning to overthrow a totalitarian government, so who am I to talk? I'm running through the forest, but what I am running from I am not sure. It's sunny and warm and by all reasonable thought beautiful, but I'm utterly terrified. I break into a clearing, breathing heavily and clutching my sides. That's when I hear the Mockingjay singing, the same 4 notes over and over. For a second, I'm frozen in fear, but then I run again. I make it only a few yards before my way is blocked. Hi, Prim. Rue's voice is happy and warm, but blood is gushing from the gaping wound in her stomach. I stagger back, turn to run in another direction. Again, Rue blocks my path. Don't run, Prim. There's nowhere to run anyway. I'm sorry, I sob. I'm sorry you died, I'm sorry. She steps closer towards me, cupping my face with dreadful cold hands and opens her mouth to speak. Instead of words, bloody spittle flies from her lips and she collapses, an arrow through her throat. I try to scream, but no sound will come out. Katniss has a second arrow knocked, smiling at me. It's okay, little duck. I'm here. I volunteered to keep you safe, remember? Safe, she says. Then why is she aiming for me? Katniss, please, is all I can force out before she lets the arrow fly. Only then do I realize she wasn't aiming for me, after her. The arrow whisks past my head and straight into Peter's eye. He remains standing, even smiling. She hits them right in the eye, every time. His arms close around me, tightening until I can't breathe. Together or not at all, Prim? Looks like it's not at all. My eyes find Katniss again, hoping she'll rescue me, but she lowers her bow, frowning. That is what you said, Prim. Rue still dead at my feet, Katniss watching calmly, Peter cutting off my ear. I try to scream again, and this time I can. I wake up still screaming. Effie's in my room in seconds, followed by Haymitch. Crying, I wordlessly hold my arms out to Effie and she comes over to embrace me, stroking my hair and mumbling words of comfort. Haymitch walks out and returns a bit later with a mug, moving past Sinner and Portia who hover around the door, although I have no idea when they showed up. Haymitch waves them away and, at my nod, they leave me with my mentor and escort. Rue? Haymitch asks, handing me the cup of tea. Effie shoots him a disapproving look, but I don't mind him asking. He's gotten a sense of when to ask about my nightmares and when to leave it be. It's weird, because sometimes I can't even tell why I want to talk about some but not others. I take a careful sip from the hot liquid. Yeah. Peter, too. He should be somewhere on this train and instead his. I can't bring myself to finish the sentence. We sit in silence, me leaning against Effie, sipping my tea, her arms still loosely draped around me, Hamish scanning our faces for what, I could not say. Once I empty the mug, he takes it from my grasp. Get some sleep. I only nod, laying down again and looking to Effie, wordlessly asking her to stay. Luckily, she understands. The first half of next day passes by me in a blur. My prep team descends on me once more, there's food and conversation everyone tries to make upbeat, but I don't really register any of it until we pull into District 11. Where our fence is somewhat of a joke to the people, this district seems more like a prison. And 11 is huge. I can't even imagine how many people must live here. We have barely arrived when I'm already taken to the square and ushered onto stage. As usual, a special platform has been constructed at the bottom of the stage for the families of the dead tributes. On Thresh's side, there's only an old woman with a hunched back and a tall, muscular girl I'm guessing is his sister. On Rue's. I'm not prepared for Rue's family. Her parents, whose faces are still fresh with sorrow. Her 5 younger siblings, who resemble her so closely. I feel my throat closing up, half sorrow, half panic. But their faces strengthen my resolve, too. I will bring down snow before any of them have to worry about the reaping, no matter the cost. I start with a part of the speech Effie wrote for me before I ever even thought about stirring things up, hoping to lull the Capitol Control Center into a sense of false security. I don't want them to cut off what I have to say. I want everyone to hear. And then it's time for the personal comments. It's expected if you were allies, but Thresh and I weren't. I start with him anyways. Thresh was someone it was impossible not to admire. My voice is steady, and I am glad for that. He was strong, he was brave, he was determined, but above all, he was kind. He was his own person to his last breath. Thresh wouldn't join the careers. He wouldn't think twice about helping me, or Rue. He wouldn't play by any rules but his own. I didn't know Thresh well, but I know I wouldn't stand here without him, and I know that I wish I'd known him better. His grandmother smiles, tears in her eyes, and his sister looks even more like him, pride written clearly on her face. I turn to Rue's family, no longer able to keep the tremor out of my voice. Rue was more than my ally, more than my friend even. We understood each other and we completed each other. She is with me every moment of every day. She's in the songs of mockingjays and the taste of berries and the flowers in the meadow. From the moment our names were called, people said we were too young to win. I say she was too young to die. I hear a curse from a peacekeeper behind me, and from somewhere in the crowd, someone whistles our 4-note tune. By the end of the tune, I have found the whistler, a wizened old man in a faded red shirt and overalls. His eyes meet mine. What happens next is not an accident. It is too well executed to be spontaneous, because it happens in complete unison. Every person in the crowd presses the 3 middle fingers of their left hand against their lips and extends them to me. It's our sign from District 12, the last goodbye I gave Rue in the arena. Miss Everdeen, time to go, the mayor says, fear clear in his voice as he places his hand on my arm to guide me away. Halfway to the door, I think better of it. I should have mirrored the salute. It's not too late to do so. I wrench away from the mayor and make my way back, reaching the stage again just in time to witness a pair of peacekeepers dragging the old man who whistled to the top of the steps, forcing him to his knees before the crowd, and putting a bullet through his head. Hamish has to drag me away, screaming at the top of my lungs. The victory tour passes me by in a string of events that barely sit in my mind. Train, speeches, dinners. I can feel the crowd's anger, helplessness, hope, all depending on which district I'm in. We agreed, after 11, that I would put on a slight pretense of being docile and complacent, just to make sure to keep me in the capital's good graces. The citizens, that is, not Snow and his people. As long as he knows the regular citizens of the capital still adore me, he can't afford killing Mum or Katniss or any of my friends. He'd have riots in his own streets, and he must know that. But my speeches are so far beyond what is reasonable, They drip with dissent when viewed from a district point of view. Words clearly not freely spoken by a young girl forced through such horrors. I am thankful to the capital. It was the chance of a lifetime. Panem today, panem tomorrow, panem forever. Really, it is clear what I intend. And every district that dares to lift their hands into the three-finger salute is answered with me doing the same. Every single speech ended with 4 soft notes. Every speech ended with me half ushered, half dragged off stage. Snow's trying to counteract all I am doing, it's easy to tell. In the clearly sympathetic districts, such as 11, 8 and 5, the victors are kept at a distance from me at the feasts, clearly not wanting to present us as a unit, as fraternizing between districts. Underscore 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 underscore. I get to use my own words again in District 5. I manage to lock eyes with Toby while speaking, silent tears running down his pale cheeks. I draw strength from having someone to look at, someone I know I'm fighting for. Because this is worse than anything I said in 11. Amber was my friend. She was a sister to me. Above all, she was a hero. She gave her life for me, for someone she loved, for what she believed was the right thing to do. Amber had ideas and morals and integrity, and she decided that was worth dying for. She asked me to make a chance. I'm only a young girl, and I may not know much about the ways of the world, but I will try to do that. And we should all aspire to be more like Amber. The roar of the crowd is deafening and they move forward rather than back when the peacekeepers move in. They chant my name, first, but someone screams another word and it floods through the crowd like a disease, infection everyone until they once again scream as one. Change. 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 I'm shaking as I am dragged off stage. This is what I wanted. This is what I'm trying to make happen. It isn't any less scary because of that. Underscore 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 underscore. Finicadaire is twirling me around a dance floor I have no recollection of stepping on. He makes some sort of silly small talk and my mouth forms replies without asking my brain for help, so I just let myself be led to the music. It's only when I lose sight of Effie and Hamish that I realize he has been slowly shifting us away from the center of the dance floor. I raise an eyebrow in question. I quite liked what you said about Annie, he tells me, and he sounds more sincere than he has all evening. I can't help but smile. Well, it's true. He smiles as well, stopping mid-dance and releasing me from his grip, hand coming to my collar to adjust my Mockingjay pin. Well, you continue telling the truth, Primrose. It becomes you. I want to ask him so many things and I can tell he wants to say more, but the cameras have found us again, their newest victor and their favorite, so there is no time for anything else. But I leave the feast with a feeling of triumph. Finicadaire is on my side. Underscore 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 underscore. My hands are shaking as I step onto the stage in District 2. I really don't know what to expect here. Their tributes might both have come home. If Peter and I just had died first, I can't see Crane being stupid enough to antagonize District 2 by revoking the rule for their tributes. Either way, I make my way onto the stage. Julia Hadley stands with her face half hidden against her mother, the woman stroking her hair, a stoic look forced onto her face, her husband and son standing motionless. The sorrow still fresh in all their eyes. Clove's sister, Olive, looks defiant and angry, but she gives me the tiniest nod and I think, maybe, she's not angry at me, but them. At least I hope so. We have stories. In District 12 I begin, trying to force the tremors from my voice about warriors and their adventures. About fighting monsters and saving damsels in distress. About heroes and knights and queens. They are strong and brave and capable. They are admired, those people of legends and stories, and with good reason. They remind me of Cato and Clove. And of what they would have been in another world. A world without the Hunger Games, goes unspoken. And now the district that, by all rights, should hate me most is chanting my name, cheering for me. I raise my hands in the same gesture of victory I've seen on their tributes and victors, on in Oberia in God knows how many replays. Once again, I am more dragged than escorted off stage, but to my satisfaction, the Peacekeeper's features are unnatural and covered in tattoos. Clearly capital. Gotcha. Underscore 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 underscore. District 1 is calm, or maybe it just seems so by comparison. The most exciting thing to happen is Kashmir coming up to speak to me at the Victor's Feast. Much like Finicadair, she steers me away from the crowd casually. I just wanted to thank you, for Glimmer. You honored her and that means a lot. I smile, then falter. She wasn't your. I can't even finish the thought, too horrified at the idea, but she understand. No, no relation. She trained in the academy I teach in, so I knew her. And when she hugs and I wrap my arms around her in turn, I feel it rather than hear it in the chatter of the room. Kashmir humming our 4-note tune. The interview with Caesar is oddly tense, or at least it seems that way to me. He smiles all the way through, as usual, but everything seems off somehow. He steers me from question to question rigidly, not allowing me much time for my answers and not letting me bring up any subject of my own. There's peacekeepers backstage and while everyone pretends that's normal, I really don't think so. I must have inflamed the districts further, that's the only explanation. My mind is filled with half pride, half panic and I really can't tell how I managed to get through the interview, but then it's over and Effie's leading me to Snow's mansion. The party is admittedly amazing. The people, the clothes, the entertainment, the food I've never seen anything like it. I make no effort to find company but am constantly sought out. Faces appear, names are exchanged, pictures taken, kisses brushed on cheeks. I try to stick near the buffet or dance with Cinna or Haymitch or even Flavius, but I still end up dragged from stranger to stranger. There's a few people roughly my age around, Cassandra Snow in the lead, and they get me away from everyone else for a while until a woman intervenes and ushers them away, throwing a not entirely subtle glance towards the president himself. Of course, he wouldn't want his granddaughter around the likes of me. I scan the room, hoping to find Effie nearby. I didn't really pay attention when I went off with Cassandra, but before I can find her or anyone else, a man makes his way over to me, friendly smile on his face. He introduces himself as one of the game makers and asks for a dance. As if I could say no, I try not to judge him, though. I'm pretty sure Effie's friend Celeste saved my life more than once, and she's a game maker as well. Are you planning the Quarter Quell games already? I say, deciding I should make the best of an uncomfortable situation. Who knows what he might let slip. Unless I'm really lucky, and I'm using that term very lightly, and all hell breaks loose within the next half year, I'll have to mentor the Quell. Oh, yes. Well, they've been in the works for years, of course. Arenas aren't built in a day. But the, shall we say, flavor of the games is being determined now. Mr. Crane is very adamant all must be perfect. Believe it or not, I've got a strategy meeting tonight, he says. I almost snort at the mention of Crane. Of course all needs to be perfect. Another slip up like a 12-year-old winner, and entering an arena would probably seem like a lovely alternative to whatever Snow would do to him. I'm honestly quite surprised his head is still on his shoulders. Plutarch steps back and pulls out a gold watch on a chain from a vest pocket. He flips open the lid, sees the time, and frowns. I'll have to be going soon. He turns the watch so I can see the face. It starts at midnight. That seems late for, I say, but then something distracts me. Plutarch has run his thumb across the crystal face of the watch and for just a moment an image appears, glowing as if lit by candlelight. It's another Mockingjay. Exactly like the pin on my dress. Only this one disappears. He snaps the watch closed. That's very pretty, I say, an edge to my voice I can't quite keep out. He isn't showing this off like everyone else does with their accessories inspired by my pin. Oh, it's more than pretty. It's one of a kind, he says, pausing and giving me a lingering look. If anyone asks about me, say I've gone home to bed. The meetings are supposed to be kept secret. But I thought it'd be safe to tell you. Yes. Your secret's safe with me, I say. And can't help but wonder just what kind of secrets he really has. I shake the thought of to resume my search for Effie. We're supposed to be back on the train in about an hour. I don't have to look for long because she's looking for me, too. We collect Cinna and Portia, and she escorts us around to say goodbye to important people, then herds us to the door, prying Haymitch away from the bar on our way. His speech is slurred and he stumbles a few times, but refuses the help of the attendants who hurry up. We travel through the streets of the capital in a car with darkened windows. Behind us, another car brings the prep teams. The throngs of people celebrating are so thick it's slow going. But Effie has this all down to a science, and at exactly 1 o'clock we are back on the train and it's pulling out of the station. Cinna orders tea and we all take seats around the table while Effie rattles her schedule papers and reminds us we're still on tour. There's the Harvest Festival in District 12 to think about. So I suggest we drink our tea and head straight to bed. No one argues. I wake up in bed all by myself, having somehow slept through the night, probably due to my exhaustion from the past few days. We're almost in 12 by the time I wander into the dining cart, yawning heartily. The agenda for District 12 includes a dinner at Mayor Undersea's house tonight and a victory rally in the square during the Harvest Festival tomorrow. We always celebrate the Harvest Festival on the final day of the victory tour, but usually it means a meal at home or with a few friends if you can afford it. This year it will be a public affair, and since the capital will be throwing it, everyone in the whole district will have full bellies. When we reach the mayor's house, I only have time to give Madge a quick hug before Effie hustles me off to the 3rd floor to get ready. After I'm prepped and dressed in a full-length parcel pink gown, I've still got an hour to kill before the dinner, so I slip off to find her. Madge's bedroom is on the 2nd floor along with several guest rooms and her father's study. I stick my head in the study to say hello to the mayor but it's empty. The television's droning on, and I stop to watch shots of me at the Capitol party last night. Dancing, eating, smiling. This will be playing in every household in Panem right now. I'm leaving the room when a beeping noise catches my attention. I turn back to see the screen of the television go black. Then the words "Update on District 8" start flashing. Instinctively I know this is not for my eyes but something intended only for the mayor. I should go. Quickly. Instead I find myself stepping closer to the television, my heart racing. An announcer I've never seen before appears. It's a woman with graying hair and a hoarse, authoritative voice. She warns that conditions are worsening and a level 3 alert has been called. Additional forces are being sent into District 8, and all textile production has ceased. They cut away from the woman to the main square in District 8. I recognize it because I was there only last week. There are still banners with my face waving from the rooftops. Below them, there's a mob scene. The square's packed with screaming people, their faces hidden with rags and homemade masks, throwing bricks. Buildings burn. Peacekeepers shoot into the crowd, killing at random. Before I even comprehend what I am seeing, it switches over to District 5. The woman says something about level 2 and things being contained, but it doesn't look contained to me. There's fewer people than in 8, but some of them have gotten hold of guns and there's destruction everywhere. I've never seen anything like it, but I can only be witnessing one thing. This is what President Snow calls an uprising. I all but stumble from the room, my mind reeling. My heart is hammering, my hands are shaking, my mouth is suddenly dry and my throat is closing up. I provoked this. I wanted this to happen. Why am I suddenly so terrified? But I know why. There's people dying right now. Killing. Burning. Because of me. Well, not because of me, because of how they have been treated for far too long. Still, I feel responsible. I can't dwell on it as I hear footsteps approaching and I force a grin onto my face as I see Mayor Undersea. Looking for Madge, he says in a friendly tone. Yes. I want to show her my dress, I say, gesturing unnecessarily to what I am wearing. Well, you know where to find her. Just then, another round of beeping comes from his study. His face turns grave. "Excuse me," he says. He goes into his study and closes the door tightly. I make my way to Madge's room. I'm still slightly shaky as I push open the door. She's sitting in front of her mirror, attempting to put on mascara, but her hand is shaking so badly she doesn't manage. I freeze at the sight of that. She's always so calm and collected. I hardly dare ask what has gotten her into such a state. But I have to know. "Madge." She spins around at the sound of my voice and tries to force a smile, but it comes off as more of a grimace. "Madge. What's wrong?" "Oh, it's nothing," she says, finally managing to get a hold of herself. Had I not seen her a few seconds ago, I'd believe her smile and light tone. "Really, nothing. You look beautiful, Prim. Absolutely stunning." "Thank you," I reply, stepping over to her and picking up the mascara. "Let me." She just nods her consent. After I finish with her makeup, I grab a brush and set to work on her hair. Not that it needs it, it falls in pretty waves naturally. Still, I really enjoy stuff like this, and Madge and I mess around with each other's hair for fun alert, not matter how much Katniss rolls her eyes at us. Once I've somewhat calmed from the shock of what I've witnessed in the mayor's study, I decide to push Madge further, steeling myself for the worst. "Will you tell me what's wrong now?" She meets my eyes in the mirror, quickly glancing away again. We said we wouldn't tell you till the cameras are gone." "Madge, I need to know," I insist, and she turns to look at me properly, placing a hand on my shoulder. "There was a cave-in in the mines. All air is knocked out of me." I gasps, drawing in shuddering breaths, but nothing seems to reach my lungs. My whole body is shaking and I feel like I might faint. Finally I choke out, "Where? Who?" "Gale's section," Madge croaks out, "and the one next to it. 5 dead. Gale, your mother thinks he'll make it. He's in a lot of pain, but he woke up 2 days ago, so." She breaks off, both her hands now grasping my arms and guiding me to sit down on her bed. "Livia's dad, he'll likely never walk again. This can't be real. It can't, it just can't. This is Snow telling me there is always someone he can hurt because of my actions." "When?" Madge stares at me, unwilling to answer. I grab her shoulders, shaking her. "When?" She shakes her head slowly, sadly. 6 days ago. When I was in 5. And said those things. Oh God, what have I done? Why did I think a little girl could do anything right? I have doomed everyone I love. Why did I do this? I can vividly picture Gale, lying on a bed or a table somewhere, covered in blood and soot, and I can almost hear his screams of pain. Livia's dad, staring at his useless legs. Livia marching to the Justice Building to take out more Tesserae. I feel the bile rising in my throat. Madge's voice seems far away and I hear her as if through a closed door. Her hand grasps my chin and she forces me to look at her. "Prim. It's not your fault. You did everything just right. Okay. Look at me. It's not your fault. Okay." I said, I stutter out, my mind still racing with horror. Madge cuts me off. "All the right things, that's what you said." "The president," I mumble, but she doesn't let me continue once more. "Bugger the president. Bugger feeling guilty. You're giving the people something they haven't had in far too long. Hope. And what they do with that is up to them." Okay. Okay, I whisper back, and I almost mean it. I always knew people would die. Snow's corrupt regime cannot be brought down otherwise. I can't back down now. I manage a smile as I get up and straighten out my dress. "He can shoot us down, but we won't fall. Right, Madge?" "Right," she replies, linking our arms as she leads me downstairs. "We are titanium." The victory tour may have made things uncomfortable for Snow, but it didn't exactly improve my life, either. There is a new head peacekeeper, and he is ruthless. The first thing he does is reinstate whippings and hangings. I spent every waking moment helping Mum with the men and women injured in the mine collapse. 2 more die, one of them while I'm holding her hand. Her husband died in the initial blast, and I'm almost thankful she was never can see us long enough for us to tell her so. Katniss, who can't stand the sight of blood anyways, is constantly in the woods, taking along Rory more often than not. Gail is still out of commission and the Hawthorns are running low on food. They won't take money from either me or Madge, no matter how many times we offer. One day, Katniss and Rory come home with some strange tale about two women hiding in the forest, hoping to make it to District 13. I insist they take me there the next day. The trek is long and exhausting, but I am so excited I don't care how much my legs ache. I will finally find out more, hear about other districts. All this will be worth it. They are gone by the time we reach the hut they hid in. I can't help myself, I break down in tears, almost hysterical. Katniss and Rory try their best to comfort me, but soon realize they just have to let me cry it all out. Go hunt, Rory tells my sister, you're better at it anyways. I'll bring her home later, it's okay. With a concerned look and after kissing my forehead while whispering some reassurance or other, Katniss does actually leave. Good, Posey needs the food and energy. She has the measles, to make this whole mess worth. Rory sits down next to me and pulls me against him. After a while, I calm down somewhat. I make him tell me again what exactly the fugitives said, word for word, and it's much later by the time we make the trek home. The streets are surprisingly empty and we exchange a worried look. Did Fred instate some new law? Where is everyone? It doesn't take us long to realize is that people are either running towards the Justice Building or in the opposite direction. We take after those running towards it. I have to know what's happening. The crowd is thickening the closer we get, and once people notice me, they try to make me leave. A bit ahead of me, I see someone else pushing through the crowd and my eyes widen. Tafton. He'll tell me what's happening. But he only throws me a terrified look and gestures for me to get out of here. I hesitate for a few seconds. If even Tafton wants me to leave. But then I realize is what that cracking sound I hadn't really registered before is. Whipping. My heart starts racing even faster. The first public whipping. Thanks to the peacekeeper my actions brought here. But then I hear the grunt of pain and am shocked from my stupor, shoving people out of my way and running towards Fred. No. Katniss. Leave her alone. No. Fred shows no intention of doing so. Before I can decide what to do, before I even reach them, Tafton catches the whip halfway to Katniss's back. His hand and arm tear open like the countless streaks on my sister's back. You're killing her. His voice is calm but his eyes are burning and he doesn't let go of the whip. I quickly stand by his side, fighting the urge to fall down next to Katniss. Stop hurting my sister. It sounds so painfully childish. Fred actually gets distracted from glaring at Tafton. She broke the law, she is being punished. Is she sentenced to death? A new voice suddenly cuts in, so I see I almost don't recognize Madge. Because if not, you should really stop. She's as good as dead. And I don't think my father, the mayor, would be too happy about you killing a Victor's sister with no good reason. Nor would the president, I'm sure. Now, Fred wavers visibly. A woman peacekeeper I don't know steps forward, taking the chance. Miss Undersea is right. Miss Everdeen is a first offender. By District 12 law, the punishment is fulfilled. Just take her. Fred snarls, then pointing his whip at each of us in turn, Tafton, me, then Madge. One more toe out of line, and we deal with all of you my way. We untie Katniss as fast as we can, scooping up Darius as I almost stumble over his unconscious body. He must have tried to help Katniss before. Carrying the both of them with the help of a few bystanders, we rush to our home in Victor's village. Levy, a girl who lived near us in the seam, accompanies us home, filling me in on what happened along the way. From what I can tell, Fred caught her not far from the fence and made her empty her bag. All she had on her was a turkey and she said it must have gotten through the fence somehow and she just stabbed it. Couldn't prove she was lying. But apparently that is still a crime. I exchange a nervous look with Madge. Fred might not have been hanging around the fence by accident. Maybe he was trying to catch Katniss doing something they could have her executed for, and he just got there late. Actually, that is most likely what happened. I start shaking again, bile rising in my throat. Levy wraps an arm around my shoulder and I nod for her to continue telling me what happened. I have to go get something, Madge suddenly blurts, and, Spinning on her heel, she runs into the opposite direction. I don't know what she's up to, but I can only hope she does nothing foolish. I turn to Levy again. What happened to Darius? After about 20 lashes, he stepped in, saying that was enough. Only he didn't do it smart and official, like Undersea and Pernia did. He grabbed Fred's arm and Fred hit him in the head with the butt of the whip. Nothing good waiting for him, I bet. She's right, I think, swallowing hard. Nothing good seems to come from standing up for us Everdeens. Finally, we step into Victor's village. I turn to Rory. Can you get Haymitch? If he's asleep, just throw something at him. Don't get close enough to be grabbed, he always has a knife. Rory nods and runs towards the other house while our procession moves towards mine. Mum opens the door and takes in the scene with a stony expression. New head one of the miners carrying Darius offers. Mum just nods and ushers us all in. Outside, snow begins to fall. In moments, the long kitchen table has been cleared, a sterile white cloth spread across it, and Katniss hoisted onto it. My mother pours water from a kettle into a basin while ordering me to pull a series of her remedies from the medicine cabinet. Dried herbs and tinctures and store-bought bottles. I watch her hands, the long, tapered fingers crumbling this, adding drops of that, into the basin. Soaking a cloth in the hot liquid as she gives me instructions to prepare a second brew. My hands are shaking so badly I don't know how Mum is doing this. This is Katniss, we're trying to help. Katniss. But Mum's hands are as steady as ever. Only when I meet her eyes do I find the panic I am feeling. Someone go get snow and pack it on Darius's head, my mother says, and Levy hastily obeys. The other people who helped carry my sister and the peacekeeper are slowly making their excuses and heading out. Not that I can blame them. Haymitch and Rory come in, my mentor sucking in a deep breath at the sight of Katniss's back. Levy returns and I hand her a piece of cloth for Darius's snow wrap, then telling her to get home, she doesn't need to be involved in this any more than she already is. Mum swats my hands away as I try to help her clean Katniss's wounds. You're shaking, sit down. I can't help but obey. Haymitch surveys the room slowly. Anyone going to help, Bread Boy? My eyes widen in shock. I can't believe I almost forgot about Tafton. He's standing off to one side silently, clutching his bleeding arm to his chest and staring at my sister's unconscious form in horror. I get up and pull him to a chair, facing him away from Katniss on purpose. He protests as I move to get needle, thread and bandages. It's okay, I'm fine, I'm not your priority, I'm okay. His jacket is soaked in blood by the time I can get him to let me look at his wound. The skin is split from his palm to his elbow and the cut is quite deep. Still, with him, my hands are as steady as with any other patient, and I'm done before Mum is even halfway finished with arranging what skin can be saved on Katniss's back. There's a knock at the door and Rory goes to answer it, returning with Madge in tow. Her hair sticks to her face, wet from snow, and her cheeks are bright pink. She wastes no time in handing my mother a small vial. I couldn't get any more, she says apologetically. We used a lot on Gale and I had to keep some for Mother. If we asked for more now, they'd know we'd used it on someone else. We should still have plenty left over since the last shipment. Thank you, darling, I'm sure it'll be enough, my mother cuts her off gently. Prim, would you make some tea for everyone? We could surely use it. And with that, she disappears into her own little bubble, containing only her and Katniss. After we've finished off the pot of tea, Darius slowly comes to. He's slightly dizzy and his head hurts, but he's more or less okay. We go through 3 more pots of tea and Haymitch and Darius through half a bottle of liquor before my mother checks the last bit of bandaging is properly secured. Then she takes a step away from the table and sinks to her knees, sobbing hysterically. I'm by her side in a second, my arms wrapped around her, my own tears flowing freely. We stay on the floor for what must be close to an hour. The cold of the tiles is seeping into my legs and my knees hurt, but I can't help it. I couldn't move if my life depended on it. Mum stopped crying some time ago, but I can't. I just can't. It isn't until there's another knock on the door that my head shoots up. My gaze instantly finds Haymitch and I know we're both thinking the same thing. Peacekeepers. They can't have her, I say, panic rising in my chest. Haymitch gets up slowly. Might be they're here for you, kid. Or you I apply, even though that makes no sense. Darius gets up as well, his jaw set. I think you're both wrong. That'll be for me. Before any of us can react, he leaves the room and opens the door. I get up as fast as my aching knees allow, following him. I arrive just in time to see Fred snap the handcuffs closed around Darius's wrist. Before he allows them to drag him off, Darius's eyes lock with mine and he mouths 3 simple words at me. Make them pay. Katniss wakes up a few times throughout the night, but it's always only briefly and I don't think she really knows what's going on. Once, she mumbles my name before slipping back under. Another time she just stares at me. And then, when the half dose of morphling wears off, she awakes screaming. Mum, her hands shaking, injects her with the rest. What we'll do when she comes around next, I have no idea. When I ask Mum, she shakes her head sadly. We used to have a lot of whippings, before Cray. I got by then, I'll get by now. By the time the morphling wears off again, Katniss'll be fine. God, do I want to believe her. Next thing I know, I wake up in my bed. Mum or Haymitch must have carried me up after I fell asleep by Katniss's side, having refused to leave her. I hop out of bed and sprint down the stairs to see how Katniss is doing. Mum raises a finger to her lips as soon as I enter the kitchen and I see that Madge has taken up my spot by Katniss's side, both of them asleep. Or, in Katniss's case, likely unconscious. It's hard to tell. How is she? I ask my mother in a whisper. She looks like she might faint from exhaustion at any second but her eyes hold a determination that calms me. She'll be perfect. The wound set, so I could put the snow coat on. I only nod, not needing a further explanation right now. Did you sleep at all? Mum shakes her head at this. Of course not. And don't even think about starting with me, young lady. I'm not having it. Yeah, you should have heard her chew out Haymitch when he told her to go to bed, Madge remarks, stretching and wiping the sleep from her eyes. I almost grin at the thought of Haymitch's face. He's used to bossing people around but he should have known Mum wouldn't be dragged away from her daughter at such a time, not if she could help it. Where is Haymitch, anyway? I ask, frowning. It's not like him to leave at a time like this. My mother jerks her head towards the living room. On the phone. I look at her incredulously. Haymitch doesn't use phones. He doesn't even have anyone he could call, even if he wanted to. Which he doesn't. My mother reads my thoughts easily. Your escort tried to reach you. Of course. I should have called her about 2 hours ago as usual, but I didn't even think about something so trivial. Breakfast? Madge asks, moving about our kitchen as if she lived here, too. I only nod and give my mum the sternest look I can muster. Fine, stay awake. But you have to eat. I'll check on Haymitch. I find him in the study, looking about as exhausted as my mother, phone raised to his ear. He looks at me almost the second I enter. Kids up. He pauses to listen to whatever Effie is saying, getting up and walking towards me. Yeah, you too, Effie. Then he hands the phone over to me. He already told Effie everything that is safe to say over the phone but I relate events again, anyways. Haymitch wasn't there to see and I need to straighten it all out in my head anyways. By the time I hang up, the smell of breakfast is wafting through the house. I'm on my way to the others when there's a knock on the door. I open it to find Tafton. His clothes are soaked, his nose is red, his lips almost blue and he's shivering. He marched all across town in a blizzard. His hands shaking, he holds out a bag to me he somehow kept dry. I thought you might need bread. She's still unconscious, I tell him, because we both know why he's really here. I wave him inside. Have breakfast with us. When we step into the kitchen, it turns out that Katniss woke up while I was on the phone. She's groggy and in pain even though she insists it's not bad but she is awake and staying so. My heart soars with relief. The blizzard wreaks havoc for 2 more days, ending with Haymitch, Madge and Tafton all being stuck at our house for the time being. I don't mind, we have the room and enough food to last us all for at least a week. It's actually pretty great to have this many people over. Makes the house feel less gigantic. And Madge, at least, can call her parents and explain where she is. Tafton only shrugs and says his parents surely prefer him disappearing for a while over him freezing to death on the way home. Katniss's back and Tafton's arm start to heal nicely, and with the blizzard, I doubt Fred can do any more to ruin our district right now. I decide to allow myself a few days of calm. The next few weeks pass by relatively calmly, if you can look past the fear that set in when Fred arrived and the new wave of starvation racking the district, which I can't. The food packets my district receives each month in the year after I've won the games, one of the few good things to come out of this all, start to arrive rotten. The tesserae is in the same state or doesn't arrive at all, even though more and more kids add their names over and over to the reaping. There's many desperate enough to eat the disgusting fillings of the packets that can only be called food by someone who has never seen, smelled or tasted actual food. Posey, who was so happy when the first package arrived months ago, has sunken in cheeks like never before and has gotten very quiet. Katniss and Gale are both still healing, and even if they were in hunting condition, it's too dangerous with Fred on the loose. I am by now absolutely convinced that he was trying to get something on Katniss to get at me. He shows up around me, my family and friends far too often for it to be a coincidence, and sometimes even attempts to goad us into doing something he'll be able to arrest or even execute us for. Luckily, even notoriously hot-tempered Gale manages to swallow his anger. Because Fred is out for blood and he'll take anything he can get. I know Snow must be behind this, he is the one who sent us Fred. That also means the rebellion must not be completely beyond his control yet, because otherwise he would surely not be bothering with finding a legal reason to hurt me, he'd just have me killed. He still fears what reaction my untimely death might cause. Not that I can do much to help the rebellion along at this point. Haymitch just told me to sit down, shut up and stay alive when I asked him what I could do to get 12 to rebel. We're not ready, he elaborated, and there's barely enough people here anyway. Nor does the capital need us. If they'll make an example of a rebelling district, it would be 12. As much as I hated it, I had to admit he was right. So now, after weeks of doing nothing useful, not counting my academy, Snow knows what it is, no use calling it anything else, I'm sitting on the couch with Mum and Katniss, waiting for the mandatory viewing announced for tonight. Caesar is as happy as ever, chatting about tonight's big event, as he calls it. That's right. This year will be the 75th anniversary of the Hunger Games, and that means it's time for our third quarter quell. What? That's ages away, I say, scowling. Part of me is still hoping the rebellion will be in full swing by then and the games won't happen. We turn to our mother, whose expression is solemn and distant, as if she's remembering something. It must be the reading of the card. The anthem plays, and my throat tightens with revulsion as President Snow takes the stage. He's followed by a young boy dressed in a white suit, holding a simple wooden box. I think he might have been at my victory party, but I couldn't say for sure. When anthem ends, and President Snow begins to speak, to remind us all of the dark days from which the Hunger Games were born, I stop thinking about anything else. When the laws for the games were laid out, they dictated that every 25 years the anniversary would be marked by a quarter quell. It would call for a glorified version of the games to make fresh the memory of those killed by the district's rebellion. These words could not be more pointed, since I know several districts are rebelling right now. President Snow goes on to tell us what happened in the previous quarter quells. On the 25th anniversary, as a reminder to the rebels that their children were dying because of their choice to initiate violence, every district was made to hold an election and vote on the tributes who would represent it. I wonder how that would have felt. Picking the kids who had to go. It is worse, I think, to be turned over by your own neighbors than have your name drawn from the reaping ball. On the 50th anniversary the president continues, as a reminder that 2 rebels died for each capital citizen, every district was required to send twice as many tributes. I imagine facing a field of 47 instead of 23. Worse odds, less hope, and ultimately more dead kids. The year Maysali died. That was the year Haymitch won. May went that year, says my mother quietly, reaching for my Mockingjay pin, eyes sad. Maysali Donna. Her parents owned the sweet shop. They gave me her songbird after a canary. I don't reply, I just swallow almost painfully. We haven't spoken of Maysali, other than me telling her where I got the pin, and she telling me she already knew, having remembered them giving the pin back to Madge's mum when Maysali's casket arrived in 12. And now we honor our third quarter quell, says the president. The little boy in white steps forward, holding out the box as he opens the lid. We can see the tidy, upright rows of yellowed envelopes. Whoever devised the quarter quell system had prepared for centuries of Hunger Games. The president removes an envelope clearly marked with a 75. He runs his finger under the flap and pulls out a small square of paper. Without hesitation, he reads, "On the 75th anniversary, as a reminder to the rebels that it was their families who suffered from their actions most and that the district's birth rates fell steeply, only relations of previous tributes will be reaped from an all-female pool." I don't really react at first. Rory's safe. Livia and Estelle are twice as likely to go in. And Katniss. I turn to my big sister. Her eyes are hard, her hands clenched to fists, but she attempts a smile. Well, we always knew I'd be going in. They just made it a bit less obvious to everyone else that the reaping's rigged. Twice the chance to get reaped. Haymitch and I take it upon ourselves to help Katniss train the best she can. Madge joins us as well, and sometimes so do Livia and Estelle. The rest of my little academy seem to draw away. Maybe they, too, sense that Katniss will be going in and understand that I will pick my sister above whoever goes in alongside her, no matter how awful it will make me feel. Katniss, of course, is already in a better position to win the games than I ever was. But sometimes, that means nothing. Thresh should have been able to win, and that didn't happen either. Magdi is easily the fastest runner I've ever met, Livia shows a certain aptitude for knife throwing and Estelle has a swift grasp on all things medical. Every morning we do exercises to strengthen their bodies. We have them run and lift things and stretch their muscles. Every afternoon we work on combat skills, throwing knives, fighting hand to hand. Katniss and I even teach them to climb trees. Gale and Rory teach everyone about snares. Madge brings her dad's capital newspapers. Officially, tributes aren't supposed to train, but no one tries to stop us. Even in regular years, the tributes from Districts 1, 2, and 4 show up able to wield spears and swords. This is nothing by comparison. We try to make out who we already know of the competition. Effie sends me a list of all the possible legacy tributes we know of, which means family of a victor. Haymitch crosses out some and circles others. They know the victors are the main connection between districts, he tells me one day as he marks Chaff's niece down as very likely get the rebelling district's victors to fight each other. Communication breaks down entirely. That's why sat in here he crosses out Kashmir and Gloss's cousin won't go in, I'm sure. Snow thinks he has the Adlington twins in the bag, wouldn't make sense to give them a reason to fight him. Well, another reason. I nod and add Clove's sister Olive to the list of likely tributes. Her sister's stunt must have bought her a ticket to the capital. Plus, her aunt's a victor, and from some of Effie and Haymitch's hints, possibly the rebels' connection in too after what happened with Clove. The day of the reaping comes much too soon. It is hot and sultry. The population of District 12 waits, sweating and silent, in the square with machine guns trained on them. I sit on stage between Haymitch and Madge's dad. They're not even trying to be subtle. Haymitch snorts next to me. I frown and he indicates the glass balls holding the name slips. I'm so used to there being two I didn't even think about it. With all girls, one should be enough, unless the whole thing is rigged. Which, of course, it is. I guess they could have told the escorts who to call, but then they would have run the risk of them not doing it. I shudder at the thought of Effie getting herself arrested over refusing to read Katniss's name. I stare at the glass balls and then turn back to Haymitch. Sends a message, huh? We're cheating and you know it, but what are you going to do about it? He lets out a barking, mirthless laugh. Effie, in her new metallic gold wig, gives me a wide smile that doesn't reach her eyes as she moves over to the microphone. Welcome, welcome, she intones. As usual this year we celebrate our third quarter quell. Isn't that exciting? The lady's first dies on her tongue as she looks the sea of faces, girls only, who stare back at her. Her hand hovers over the first reaping ball and I think no one is surprised when she reads out the name Katniss Everdeen. My sister makes her way onto stage, looking angry and intimidating and very much like someone the Capitolites will want to sponsor. That doesn't make it any easier, though. After chirping some nonsense she doesn't mean about how lovely it is to have Katniss in the games, Effie goes to pull the second name. The little gasp she can't contain and the terrified look she throws over her shoulder lets me know it's bad before she reads the name. Margaret Undersea. I grabbed the mayor by the arm to keep him from getting up, my heart pounding. It wasn't enough for Snow to target my sister, he had to target my friend, her friend alongside her. I should never have allowed myself to get close to her. I doomed her. But when my eyes find Haymitch, his jaw clenched and his hands balled into shaking fists, I realize this isn't about me. Throwing Maysilee's niece into the games was all they could do to him, all they could do in hopes of him and me turning on each other. Madge gracefully ascend the stage, looking as determined as Katniss but much friendlier. Instead of shaking hands like Effie tells them to, they hug each other, which prompts Thread to usher us all off stage and Haymitch and me to the station. "Stop biting you nails," Haymitch snaps. I glare at him. "How about you stop drinking?" He glares, but slowly puts the glass aside. "Now take your fingers out of your mouth, girl." Waiting for Effie to bring Katniss and Madge onto the train is absolute agony. At the same time, I want them to never arrive, just keep them safe and sound in 12. But that's never going to happen. "Stop fidgeting," Haymitch says irritably, getting me to look up at him. I'm not. I break off as I notice the slip of paper he pushed towards me across the table. "I'm nervous," is all I say for the bugs, looking down at the piece of paper as he snorts. "You don't say, kiddo. We're not letting them tear the victors apart." I stare at the words for a few seconds. This can really only mean one thing. Someone, somehow, somewhere is planning to stop the games, planning to stop Katniss and Madge and everyone else from dying. So that inter-district unity won't go down the drain and the rebellion will still have a leg to stand on. All that registers in my mind is that Katniss and Madge will both be okay. I only nod, tearing the note into tiny pieces and dropping it into my half-empty teacup. Like it never even existed. Shortly after, Katniss stomps onto the train, followed by Madge and an exasperated Effie. I groan. "Please tell me she didn't make that face for the cameras." "She was okay," Madge says, not all too convinced. Effie raises her eyebrows. "Well, Madge dear, I'm not sure who you were looking at, but Katniss's attitude needs improving." "I'm right here," you know my sister says loudly. "And I don't want to improve my attitude for those people. They can all go foo." Language. Effie and I exclaim as one, just about stopping Katniss from openly antagonizing the Capchol. Snow wants her dead as it is. Haymitch buries his face in his hands dramatically. "I thought you winning was supposed to give me a fellow mentor, not another escort." I opt to ignore him, turning to Katniss instead. "We talked about this. You can't go around all sulky. You need sponsors." "I'm dead meat anyways," she replies. I frown. We've had this discussion before and I don't want to hear her talking like that. She keeps promising she'll do her best to win, but the next second she'll say something like this. "Snow wants her dead, I know that. But I have to trust that Haymitch and whoever else have a plan. They can only rig things that much is what I say instead. And if the citizens love you, they'll have to make it very believable. You might win. All I accomplish is her changing tracks." "What about Madge, then?" "Let's figure that out later," Madge replies. "At the final 2 or so. It's not the best attempt at a joke, but it gets us naught from Katniss, which is all that matters." I shoo them off to get cleaned up before dinner before the mood can change for the worse again. I go to collect Katniss for dinner later while Effie goes to get Madge. I find my sister on her bed, staring up at the ceiling, toying with some small object she's holding. "What do you have there?" I ask, walking over to sit down next to her. She hands it to me and I look down at it curiously. It's an old and somewhat battered pocket watch. I flip it open to see it has a picture of my mum, my dad, toddler Katniss and baby me tucked into it. Photographs are something very rare in the scene, but Dad had the whole thing arranged for my mum. It's one of her favorite things, I think. "Dad's pocket watch." Katniss nods. "Mum gave it to me. As a token, you know." "You'll be okay," I whisper, laying down on the bed next to her. She wraps an arm around me. "I guess I have to be, little duck." "I mean it," I say, moving closer and hiding my face against her hair, my lips close to her ear. I don't know what's going on, but there's some kind of plan. You and Madge just act like all is normal, okay? Be regular tributes until whatever they are planning happens. It's not much of anything, I know that. But Katniss draws me closer and kisses my forehead. I'd do anything for you, you know that. I can't keep mumbling into her ear like this, they might start suspecting something. So instead I pull back slightly and grin at her. Even smile for the cameras. Her eyes widen in mock shock. Now that's asking a bit much, don't you think? I giggle and wrap my arms around her. So, dinner. Dinner is a tedious affair. Whilst Effie, Madge and I attempt our best at making civil conversation, both Katniss and Haymitch seem occupied with what can only be described as a game of who can sulk the hardest. I mean, I know this is all horrible, but there is some kind of plan, we know that much. Last year, there was only the games and an almost certain death ahead of me, and I was not being such miserable company. Shall we watch the recap of the reapings, says Effie finally, dabbing at the corners of her mouth with a white linen napkin. I think we're all glad that dinner is over, judging by how fast we move to the compartment with the television. I bring the notes I took of who's likely to go in, ready to add who's really in. The recaps move much slower than last year. Caesar and Templar Smith take their time with each newly called tribute, showing footage of the games of the relatives that got them into this in the first place. District 1 has its usual volunteers, a redhead named Glamour, in the pool due to her Victor uncle, and a blonde girl called Sapphire, her spot bought by her tribute cousin, but they also show footage of her grandfather, who won the 11th games and is one of the oldest victors still alive. Both girls are 18 and as well trained as is one's custom. District 2's first tribute is, unsurprisingly, Olive Cantwell. She looks so much like Clove, I have to blink a few times to be sure it isn't her. Equally unsurprising, no one volunteers to take her place. No one can be stupid enough to believe this to be an accident, so no one is stupid enough to make a move against Snow's plan. I scribble into my notebook in an attempt to block out what's happening on the screen. Clove in the bloodbath. Olive being interviewed. Clove pinning me to the ground, her knife at my neck. Katniss leans over my shoulder to check what I'm writing and her eyes widen in disbelief. Seriously, she demands and jabs her finger at a word scrawled next to Olive's face. Ally with her. Really? I shrug, biting my lip. I put a question mark. Anyways, why not? Katniss gives me a look as if I had suggested going for tea and biscuits with Snow. She's a career. In a pink dress Madge deadpans. Come on, Katniss. Prim's just spitballing. We have to start somewhere. Don't make me kick you out of my alliance before there even is one. You better listen to your friend, sweetheart, Haymitch drawls, smirking at my sister. You need an alliance and just lil old District 12 won't cut it. And Olive is sadly your best bet so far. Snow wants her almost as dead as he wants you, I bet. Whatever, Katniss snaps, obviously realizing she is hopelessly outnumbered. And probably that we're right, too. Olive's fellow tribute, an 18-year-old volunteer called Diana whose brother made it into the final 3-4 years ago, towers a good foot over Olive. It's District 3 that brings the first surprise of the day. The first tribute, Curie, a girl my age, is shaking like a leaf as she stands on stage. Oh dear, not her, Effie mumbles, and once the shots of her aunt, a woman called Wyas, and her games are over, I learn why. Templar Smith remarks with almost indecent joy that the poor sweet thing, as he calls her, lost her parents at a young age and was raised by her Victor aunt who's not quite as sharp as she used to be. Lost, Haymitch snorts. Lost them, did she? Wasn't careful, I take it. Effie shoots him a warning glare but he keeps talking, to no one in particular. Wyas pissed him off. No one needs to ask who he means. Kept feeding the orphans with her Victor money. So, very coincidentally, her sister's house came crashing down. Didn't find the girl until 3 days later, covered in blood and God knows what else and screaming her head off. Not right anymore, but who would be? She was 5, Effie adds quietly. Haymitch opens another bottle. Sadly, none of this comes as a surprise to me. News, yes, but not anything unexpected. It's what Snow does. What he's always been doing. No, the surprise comes next. When the second tribute is called and a girl volunteers. She's 15 and looks terrified but determined, wrapping a protective arm around Curie's shoulder as she states her name. Avalon. I wonder why she didn't volunteer to go in instead of Curie but with her. Only one can win unless she knows something I don't. I throw a quick glance at Hamish. He gives a small nod. Frowning, I stare back at the screen. Those two wiry girls are supposed to be our solution. Or at least part of it. Then again, I'm supposed to have started a rebellion by my mere existence, so maybe I shouldn't really judge. District 4 breaks form by having only one volunteer, a very pretty girl with jet black hair called Marina. The other tribute, who gets reaped, causes the commentators to almost have a meltdown. Amphitrite, cousin to the Finicader. I write the word ally down next to her face. No question mark. You should get her, Effie says, as if reading my thoughts. She directs this at Madge rather than Katniss, possibly hoping not to set my sister's sour mood off again. She's your biggest contender for sponsors, the way I see it. We'll check her out, Madge says, shooting my sister a smile. Right, Katniss. Katniss shrugs. Nothing to be said against seeing if she's okay. But I don't promise anything. Good enough, I say, adding under my breath for now. District 5 is the usual. District 6 almost gives Temple Smith a stroke in his excitement. One of the girls, 16-year-old Johnsa, is actually in the pool because of her father who did, however, not win his games. There's an abundance of footage of him as well as of interviews with his extremely pregnant girlfriend. People in the districts usually wait to start a family until they're out of the reapings, but sometimes, like in this case, things happen and so Johnsa never met the dad who died at 18 and doomed her to these games. Things proceed calmly until they hit our district. Then suddenly, Katniss is on stage and I'm on screen. Running from the cornucopia. Trying to keep Rue from bleeding out. Tending Peter's wounds. Being crowned by snow. Interviews with Katniss while I'm away. She puts an arm around me and I snuggle into her embrace. They keep on, playing every scene they deem exciting. I can't help but wonder if this is some kind of sick joke on Snow's behalf or if it's just because I'm their news it Victor, but the coverage on me is almost double what everyone else received. Then it's Madge's turn and I almost wished they'd focused on me longer when I see the look on Hamish's face as the second quarter quell comes to life on the screen. He grabs a new bottle and leaves the room. Effie doesn't object, hovering for a moment but then staying with us, looking concerned. Madge's face is unreadable as she stares straight ahead, her eyes, the bright blue eyes she shares with the dying girl on the screen, fixed on the gruesome scenes before her. We're all relieved when instead they start showing footage of Madge. There's even baby pictures. Apparently the Capitol considers the district politicians as at least somewhat interesting to them. You've always been on TV? I ask. I'd never realized it was that bad for them. Madge shrugs. Just now and again, when nothing else was on. They have a segment called District Life. By now, they've reached my games again. But this time, it's merely me and Peter joking about Madge and Gale, only to switch to a joined interview with the two of them. Look at him hogging my screen time, Madge says with a fond smile as Gale's talking on screen. Effie sighs dramatically and winks at Madge. Seem boys. Nothing but trouble. We arrive in the Capitol much too soon and I have a hard time letting Katniss go, even if it's only to go get ready for the tribute parade. Remember, just let them do their thing, okay? They only mean well, I swear. Cinna has it all worked out down to the last minute so Katniss and I can share my old prep team. It's not how things are usually done, but I don't want Katniss with strangers nor give up my team. Octavia, Venia and Flavius are excited, but have their somber moments, assuring me Katniss will be just fine, then getting excited about another pair of siblings winning in successive years a la Cashmere and Gloss. And a Quell winner, too. Octavia gushes victor of the third quarter Quell and her sister, the youngest victor we ever had. Can't you just picture it? Mean as it might be, I'm very relieved when they declare me as ready and leave me alone. Once they're gone, Effie enters the room, carrying my outfit in a bag. Cinna's still with Katniss, she says apologetically, but we'll do just fine, won't we? I agree, and we sit down for a quick lunch before we get started. You'll have a quick interview first, Effie tells me. I know this already, she's told me, but I let her go through the schedule again anyways. It calms us both, somehow. And then we're off to the gathering place. As you can imagine, it will be a bit different than last year. Yes, there's never been this many victors as personally invested in the games as this year. It's not long before Effie decides I should put my dress on. Once she pulls it from the bag, I can't help but gasp. Sinner has once again outdone himself, but this time, he might have stepped too far. My hands trembling, I slip the dress over my head and step in front of the mirror. My first thought wasn't wrong. The dress is wonderful and yet dangerous for two reasons. The gossamer gown, with wings and all, is an obvious nod to Rue. But my dress is, for the most, darker, the material resembling feathers. I lift my arms and the wings move as if they were a part of me rather than the gown. Tears pool in my eyes as I stare at my reflection. Sinner has turned me into a mockingjay. For Rue. For all children. For the rebels who must still fight and die and burn Snow's world to the ground. Effie's next to me by the time the first sob wrenches itself from my protesting throat, her arms around me, rocking me as if I were a small child. I cry uncontrollably for as long as I dare, then pull away from Effie, wiping at my eyes furiously. Oh, I ruined my face, I say, just for the sake of saying something. But I do look a mess. I'm supposed to be strong for my sister, I'm a symbol of rebellion. If I can't even hold it together over a dress, how do I expect to help bring down Snow? I'm still just a stupid little girl with no idea what she's actually doing. I want to cry some more, hide away and pretend none of this is real, but I can't. Instead, I force myself to breathe calmly. No matter, Effie says gently, we'll have a cup of tea and then there's still plenty of time to get you ready. Only once I'm somewhat calmed down, holding a steaming mug close to my chest, do I realize something. Effie. Did you plan in time for that? She gives me a slightly sheepish grin. Well, dear, taking care of my victors is what I do. You get a feeling for when someone's almost at their breaking point. No point to let that mess up our schedule. I laugh and move to sit closer to her. Because I know what she's really saying. I love you. I'm here for you. I don't have to do this all alone. Underscore 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 underscore. My interview is tedious and I'm nervous the whole time, but Effie and Sinner assure me I did fine. Katniss has a lot in store for you, I tell the cameras, but really, I'm talking to the sponsors and we'll definitely see an interesting alliance, but I won't say more. I really shan't spoil all the fun. They laugh at that and I know I have them intrigued. Whatever Haymitch is planning, I still have to have my backup. And that means sponsors. So I smile. Underscore 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 underscore. Then it's time to go to the bottom level of the remake center, where the tributes are prepared for the chariot ride. Effie, Sinner and Portia are gone to check on Madge and Katniss and bring them down, but I go ahead already. The place is crawling with victors, some even introducing their tributes to those of other districts. Alliances are already forming. Marina from 4 is talking to Johnsa, who looks both horrified and pleased at being thought out by the career. Maybe she'll get an offer to join their pack if her score is good enough. She's tall and muscular enough, and interesting in terms of sponsorship. Olive catches my eye from where she's standing with her aunt and gives me a curt nod. I return it, but before I can decide whether or not to go talk to them, I'm grabbed by the arm. I turn around to find Curie staring at me intently. She doesn't introduce herself or utter any greeting at all, her eyes on mine, then flicking to my dress and my pin. And suddenly she's talking, her voice soft but clear. With Rue my heart is laden for golden friends I had, for many a rose-lipped maiden and many a light-foot lad. By brooks too broad for leaping the light-foot boys are laid. The rose-lipped girls are sleeping in fields where roses fade. I blink back tears, the meaning of her words clear, even if I'm not sure why she speaks the way she does. Maybe it has something to do with the trauma she suffered years ago. They did say she was different. I take her hand and squeeze it gently. Thank you, Curie. She squeezes my hand in return and runs off, leaving me to myself again. In true capital fashion, I'm alone for maybe 30 seconds before I hear someone call my name. I turn around to find Finnick and Amphitrite striding towards me. Hey, Finnick, I say, smiling at him. Then I offer my hand to his cousin. Primrose Everdeen, hi. Amphitrite, she says in return, smiling as well as she shakes my outstretched hand. Amphitrite is an almost exact copy of her older cousin, tall, athletic, with golden skin and bronze-colored hair. Her eyes, unlike his sea-green ones, are an almost black-blue, though. She's about as naked as the stylists can get away with, unsurprisingly. A fishing net is wound around her hips, knotted just enough that you can't actually say it's indecent. Upwards from the net, she's completely nude except for 2 palm-sized seashells on her breasts. She doesn't seem to feel self-conscious about it or anything, though. She might as well be wearing full-body armor from the way she stands and smiles, as if she owns this place. We talk for a bit before Madge, Katniss, Effie and the stylists come and join us. Finnick and Effie greet each other with kisses on the cheeks and introduced everyone to each other before Effie looks around. Where did Haymitch get to? Everyone shrugs in reply and she huffs in exasperation. If he is off drinking with Chaff, I swear well, never mind, I'll go find him. As Effie stalks away, I take a proper look at Katniss and Madge now. They're in matching outfits, black jumpsuits that cover them from the neck down. Pretty simple, but knowing Cinna and Portia, there's more to it. Their faces are almost obscured by the dramatic highlights and dark shadows. High arching eyebrows, sharp cheekbones, smoldering eyes, deep purple lips. As the absolute provocation, they are both wearing crowns. They are made of a heavy, black metal, but are still clearly recognizable as victor's crowns. Once again, I pray that Cinna knows what he's doing. Very nice, I tell him, but what happened to being recognizable in the arena? Cinna just smiles. Everyone already knows them, Prim. And just look at them, aren't they perfect? Perfect for what, I almost ask, but as I look at them, speaking to Amphitrite, surrounded by victors and tributes and with the games ahead, I realize what he means. They look powerful, threatening, deadly. We should swap outfits sometime, Amphitrite says, her eyes trailing over first Madge, then Katniss in a way that makes my sister fidget. I manage to suppress a giggle, and Madge luckily isn't fazed at all. We really should. I'd love to try yours on. Now, the girl from 4 asks, raising her hand to one of the seashells and moving to peel it off. Her cousin slaps her hand playfully. You know Tia will have a fit if you rearrange her outfit. Just then, Effie returns with a grumpy Haymitch in tow. Prim, dear, we have to get going. The parade will start soon. I nod, and give Katniss a quick hug. Just do it the way Cinna said, okay? And keep being sociable, we're still feeling out which alliances could work. Good luck, you'll do great. With that, I'm off. We find our spot in the ranks and I sit down between my mentor and escort. The tributes start rolling out, but I can't really bring myself to pay all too much attention, waiting for my sister and friend to come out. All I really register is that some districts tried to steal Cinna and Portia's idea of illuminating the tributes, but it barely makes sense with most. I mean, District 3, where electronics are made, is understandable, but everything else? I have no clue. But then our chariot comes out and everything is forgotten. The crowd erupts in wild screams, cheering and yelling and chanting Katniss and Madge's names. Their suits are activated now and they look as if fire became human, as if glowing embers arranged themselves into the form of 2 young women. They barely look human, they look like fire and rage, they look like they are ancient and forever and not from this world. They do not react to the crowd, they give them no smiles or kisses or waves. They are strong and unforgiving and will not play the Capitol's games by any rules but their own. They are breathtaking, and dangerous. I hurry back once the chariots make it back to the training center, but Haymitch places his hand on my shoulder to slow me down. Give them a moment. Katniss and Madge are talking to a girl from 9, Demeter, and a girl from 10 I think is called Elise. Still keeping an eye on them, I allow Haymitch to lead me around to talk to other victors instead. We walk towards the District 5 chariot to Jules, Amber's mentor from last year, who's talking to Chaff and Cedar from 11. I know Chaff by sight because I've spent years watching him pass a bottle back and forth with Haymitch on television. He's dark-skinned, about 6 feet tall, and one of his arms ends in a stump because he lost his hand in the games he won 30 years ago. I'm sure they offered him some artificial replacement, but I guess he didn't take it. The woman, Cedar, looks almost like she could be from the seam, with her olive skin and straight black hair streaked with silver. Only her golden brown eyes mark her as from another district. She must be around 60, but she still looks strong, and there's no sign she's turned to liquor or morphling or any other chemical form of escape over the years. Jules is brunette with brown eyes, rather short, only a few inches taller than me, really, and must have won around the time I was born, seeing as she looks to be around 40. First Jules, then Cedar hug me before we even exchanges greetings. Their families. I whisper and they both smile. They're fine. I breathe a sigh of relief, exchanging some pleasantries with all three victors, but that's about all the time we have before Capitol attendants are firmly directing us toward the elevators. I get the distinct feeling they are not comfortable with the camaraderie among the victors, who couldn't seem to care less. Effie and the stylists have already taken Madge and Katniss upstairs, so I end up entering an elevator with Haymitch, Olive, and Johanna Mason from District 7. I didn't get to meet her on my victory tour, so I figure she must be somehow linked to the brewing rebellion, or at least that Snow views her as a possible danger. Before I can say anything, Johanna addresses Olive. Nice costume. I like the gold. She pauses just long enough for an oddly flustered Olive to stutter out a thank you. My tributes were ridiculous. Again. Trees, for shouting out loud. They never even bother anymore. Then she turns to me. Of course, your sister hit the stylist jackpot. That we did, I reply, smiling. But by then, she's already of the subject. You have your alliance figured out yet? I don't know why I bother, the two we have this year are hopeless. Not selling them very well, Mason Haymitch says with a grin. Johanna smirks back at him. As if you'd believe me if I make them out to be fighters, Abernathy. Might try to set Willow up with Elise, who knows. But I don't think I can get her into one of the real alliances. The real alliances, that's what they call the tributes who actually have a fighting chance. Most years, it's only the careers. What about you? Haymitch asks Olive. The girl frowns at him, suddenly defensive. What about me, old man? I can barely stifle a chuckle and Johanna doesn't even bother. You're not with the careers. So you going to try it by yourself or what? Olive gives half a shrug. Worked for you, didn't it? Because I was underestimated, Johanna says casually. You're from 2. They saw your citer last year. On your own, you're dead meat. Kashmir's girl is itching for your blood. The girl from 2 doesn't seem bothered by this. Just like Diana, then. And if you don't mind, I'll worry about 2 before I even consider worrying about 1. Well, our tributes haven't set their alliance in stone yet, I cut in as the doors open on Olive's floor. Just so you know. She could win, normally, Johanna remarks as the doors close again. I don't have to ask what she means. Olive is on Snow's list right up there with Katniss. Then again, you weren't supposed to win either, kid. Once on our floor, we walk into the dining room, where everyone else is already waiting. As if on cue, 2 Avoxes enter the room. Katniss's eyes widen in horror at the sight of Lavinia, but I have no time to wonder about it before the second Avox steps out of the shadows hiding his face. Darius. I instinctively grab Katniss's wrist, hoping she won't do anything rash, my own eyes wide in shock. But, like everyone else, my sister seems frozen by unspeakable horror. I know any move I would make toward Darius, any act of recognition, would only result in punishment for him. So we just stare into each other's eyes. Darius, now a mute slave, me, headed for an uncertain, but surely dangerous future, my sister likely doomed in my stead. What would we say, anyway? That we're sorry for the other's lot. That we ache for the other's pain. That we're glad we had the chance to know each other. But he shouldn't be glad to have known me. I should have stopped Fred. Should not let him risk all for Katniss. Should not have let the peacekeepers take him. Should have died in the arena and spared everyone the pain my survival has brought down on us. Darius would not be an Avox, had he never stepped in. Our Avox. Placed here to taunt me, to disturb Katniss before she is thrown into some unholy pit to fight for her life. My sister makes a strangled sound at the back of her throat, half sob, half curse, and wrenches from my grasp, fleeing to her room. I follow her and we lie on her bed side by side, our fingers intertwined and not speaking a word, shock rendering us as mute as the capital torture has done to Darius. Katniss knows him better. I am the reason anyone in my life became a target in the first place. We have no words of comfort for each other. When Effie eventually calls us for dinner, I help Katniss wash the makeup from her face, then slipping off my Mockingjay dress as she rids herself of the jumpsuit. Dressed in comfortable clothes, mine too big as they come from Katniss's closet, we join the others. I try to keep my mind on dinner, on the conversation about the opening ceremony, but all I can think about is somehow showing Darius at least a sign of what I am feeling, of my guilt and anguish. Katniss beats me to it. She purposely knocks a dish of peas to the floor and, before anyone can stop her, crouches down to clean them up. Darius is right by her when she sends the dish over, and the two are briefly side by side, mostly obscured from view, as they scoop up the peas. But I can see that for just one moment their hands meet. Effie must have seen, too, because suddenly she's clucking at Katniss from behind about how that isn't your job, Katniss, an edge to her voice and a slight hint of fear in her eyes, and Darius lets go. That night, I join Katniss in her room, unable to even bear the idea of sleeping all alone. My nightmares are no surprise tonight. I dream of Darius, strapped to some table while faceless people work on him, screaming until it turns to some animalistic sound and then nothing, but with eyes still wide, his mouth open with a shriek of agony that won't make a sound. Then I'm in the room they put me after my games, in bed, needles in my arms, waiting for someone to come, until I finally realize that someone's cowering in the corner, rocking back and forth slowly, red hair streaming down her back. Lavinia, I say carefully, but as she turns, I realize it is Amber, blood dripping down her chin, her voice taken from her. I awake to Katniss screaming. "Sorry, little duck," she mutters, shaking even as she pulls me into a hug. I hold on to her tightly. "It's okay, I was having nightmares anyways." Checking the time, I realize we have to go to breakfast soon anyways. Madge, Effie and Haymitch are already at the table as Katniss and I sit down, loading our plates with food. We eat in silence a bit before Haymitch speaks up. "Right, so strategy for training. 2 things. 1. Don't show them what you can do." Both Katniss and Madge nod at this, as it is pretty self-explanatory. "And 2, make some friends." "No," Katniss says, as I knew she would. "I don't trust any of them, I can't stand most of them, and I'd rather operate with just me and Madge." "Katniss, you promised I start at the same time as Haymitch," sighs in exasperation. "You're going to need more allies. Just the 2 of you, and the careers can take you out easily. They have you outnumbered. And in terms of sponsors, you rank high, what with Little Miss Youngest Victor as your sister, so they'll want you gone quick. Then what's the point? No one will want to join us, we're on everyone's hit list," she says, clearly meaning no. I pipe up again. "There's strength in numbers, and others are just as much on everyone's list as you." My sister still frowns at us all. "Please, Katniss," Madge says quietly, and Katniss relents. "All right. I'll try. I just won't like it." I breathe a sigh of relief. "Good enough. Katniss." At 10 o'clock sharp training starts with a woman, Attila, explaining how it will all play out. Experts in each skill will remain at their stations. We will be free to travel from area to area as we choose, per our mentor's instructions. Some of the stations teach survival skills, others fighting techniques. We are forbidden to engage in any combative exercise with another tribute. There are assistants on hand if we want to practice with a partner. Then we get to go around the stations. Madge looks around, her eyes more on the other tributes than the stations. "Wanna split up? Cover more ground?" "Yeah, sure," I reply. What she really means is she'll make friends without me, and my complete lack of social grace is messing it up. I'm no good at making friends, I don't even know where I'd start. Meet you at sword fighting in 2 hours. That's one of the things we couldn't train back home, and as it's the main weapon supplied at the cornucopia, as well as a common first choice among careers, we figured we should get to know it more. How to use swords and how to dodge them. Leaving Madge to her own quest, I make my way to the first empty station I spot, which just so happens to be building fires. I already make excellent fires, but I'm still pretty dependent on matches for starting them. So the trainer has me work with flint, steel, and some charred cloth. This is much harder than it looks, and even working as intently as I can, it takes me about an hour to get a fire going. I look up with a triumphant smile only to find I have company. The 2 tributes from District 3 are beside me, struggling to start a decent fire with matches. I think about leaving, but I really want to try using the flint again, and if I have to report back to Prim and Haymitch that I tried to make friends, these 2 might be a bearable choice. The younger girl, Curie, the one who they say isn't quite right, only gives me a fleeting glance. The older girl, who's still 2 years younger than I am, looks from my fire to her pitiful attempt and gives me a small smile. So you do take your costume choices serious in District 12, huh? It's not a very good joke, but it makes me smile anyway. This girl volunteered, and it's quite obvious that it was for Curie's sake. I do wonder, however, why she didn't volunteer in her stead but rather with her. After a while of us amiably chatting, I dare axe her while the younger girl seems off in a world of her own. Avalon looks at her with sad eyes. You know who her aunt is, right? Wyas. She's not very popular with, people in charge. She keeps feeding orphans, housing the poor, you know, very non-victory activities. Curie's only 13, she would have had 5 more years to be reaped again. But once you walk out of the arena, you're out for good. I figured I'd give it a shot. She says it almost lightly, but it's a very serious matter. For a 1 in 1,000 chance to save this helpless young girl, she's willing to die. Like Peter did for Prim. I swallow hard, but the strange feeling in my throat won't go away. You're very brave, I tell her before hurriedly making my excuses, angrily blinking at the sting of tears in my eyes. Looking weak is not an option. I make my way to the sword station. Madge got there first and is attempting her best under the watchful eyes of the trainer as well as Amphitrite Adair, who looks up as I walk over. Hey, Katniss. How are you? I shrug, not sure what to tell her. Is she being friendly or trying to lull me into a false sense of security? I am supposed to ally with her, so maybe she's been told the same. I decide to go for something somewhat neutral. Not training yourself? It's her turn to shrug. I've trained for years, I figure a few minutes of watching are allowed. But if anyone asks, I'm checking out the competition. Or something. So, what do you say? I ask, trying to keep the conversation going. That's 3 people I tried to make friends with. Well, if you count Curie, who I didn't actually speak to. Amphitrite smiles. She's pretty good. For someone from 12, a voice interjects. We both turn to see Olive Cantwell sauntering over. I instantly forget all about being friendly and sociable. What's that supposed to mean? Oh, nothing, she waves it off, just that you aren't trained and all. Right. Right, I echo. That's the official story, anyways. Olive's also on my, or rather, Prim's, ally wish list, so I at least try to smile. You gonna have a go at the swords as well? No, not really my style, she replies, and Amphitrite laughs. You don't say. Olive rounds on her with a glare that makes me step back even though it isn't aimed at me. Which is pretty impressive, considering she is shorter than me and has actual, honest-to-God ribbons in her hair. Okay, so does Madge, but she's not a career. The girl from 4 just laughs again. No offense, half pint, but how would you even lift a sword? I don't know what I expect, but it's certainly not Olive, considering this for a second or two and then laughing herself. In the arena, I'll find myself a sword, Adair, and I'll carve your beating heart out and feed it to you before you even realize you're dead. With that, she walks off again, Amphitrite calling out after her. I look forward to it, Cantwell. Then she turns to me and grins. How very graphic. I like her. Oh my god. These are the people I'm supposed to ally with. Is my sister absolutely insane? With Katniss and Madge in training, I'm free to be occupied with what Effie calls sponsor charming. Cinna lets me pick my own outfit from the wardrobe full he destined for me, as he says I should feel as comfortable as possible. I end up in a knee-length dress with bright yellow flowers and shoes with butterflies on them. Very true to the newest capital fashion. Can't I have higher heels? I whine as Cinna expertly winds my hair around my head in a braid reminiscent of a crown. I know it annoys both Katniss and Haymitch to no end, but capital fashion is, like the food, amazing to me, no matter what I think of the capital otherwise. Okay, not everything, the dyed skin for example is rather strange and I would not want gemstones inlaid in my hands. But the dresses and shoes, and even some wigs, are to die for. But Cinna, for some reason, insists on keeping my clothes slightly well, not childish, but certainly youngish. Capital girls my age wear heels twice as high and skirts half as long. Again, Cinna denies me, albeit with a smile. We don't want you looking older than you are, Prim. That we appears not to include me, I say, trying to give him a stern look but failing miserably. I just can't be mad at Cinna. Once he's finished my makeup, here, he gives in and lets me wear the long, fake lashes I shamelessly begged Effie to give to me. I go out to meet Haymitch and Effie while Cinna goes off to find Portia so they can work on their designs for the interviews some more. Oh, darling, you look beautiful. Effie exclaims as soon as she spots me, whereas Haymitch only skulls. But that's probably because he had a moment of weakness and let Effie pick his outfit, which means he's ended up with his tie matching her shoes and sporting Mockingjay cufflinks to go with my pin. We match, I say happily, sticking out my tongue at Haymitch when Effie isn't looking. She beams at me. Well, yes, we're a team, after all. When we reach the sponsor meeting, the party is already in full swing. It's hard to believe it's only barely noon once you step foot in here. Everyone who's anyone in the capital is here, victors and escorts too, even some stylists who probably just care less than Cinna and Portia. There's food, drinks, dancing, it's really a lot like my victory party. Haymitch heads straight to the bar before Effie or I can even think to protest, so it's just the two of us. Effie gives my hand a quick, reassuring squeeze. Remember, deals won't be sealed until right before the games, maybe even only after the bloodbath. So the field is completely open right now. I nod and then we dive into the crowd. Effie and I manage to stick together for a while, but then I end up dancing with Octavius Temple Smith, grandson to the Claudius Temple Smith, and politely backing away is no longer an option. He must be about Gale's age, I think, but the 6 years between us don't deter him from holding me just a little closer than what is proper and giving me a look that makes me glad Cinna doesn't design my dresses shorter. Octavius's voice, the haughty tone and light laughter at a matter like the Hunger Games, make my skin crawl, but I smile politely back at him. For Katniss, I remind myself. For Katniss and Madge and whatever they'll need in the arena that his money might buy. I'm beyond relieved when someone cuts in with a courteous smile. Now, Octavius, we can't have you keeping Miss Everdeen all to yourself for so long, can we? It's very rude. The younger man scowls but releases me from his grasp, possibly not wanting to cause a scene. Or maybe this new man holds more power than he does. Either way, I grasp onto the proffered arm and let him lead me away. Octavius is not a very gallant boy, he tells me softly. I suppress a snort. As if I hadn't noticed. Instead, I smile up at my savior. He's tall, slender, with his hair a shade of blue that matches his eyes exactly. He seems to take my silence as a cue to continue speaking. He doesn't know how to play the game yet, or else he would have likely realized the head of security can't tell the grandson of Claudius Temple Smith what to do, but that's our luck, isn't it? He makes grandson of Claudius Temple Smith sound like a title. Which it might be around here. My cousin must be looking for you, the poor dear always worries ever so much, he continues. I'm about to ask who he means, when suddenly Effie comes rushing towards us as fast as propriety allows. Prim. I lost sight of you, I'm ever so sorry. Then she turns to the blue-haired man. Thank heavens you found her, Emmanuel. Haymitch was no help at all. As usual. She rolls her eyes and then gives me a bright smile. Well, no harm done. Would you like something to eat? Her cousin excuses himself as we make our way over to the buffet. Johanna Mason saunters over to us. Enjoying yourself, Everdeen? That depends on your definition of enjoying oneself, I reply with a shrug. I don't really know what to make of Johanna yet. She smirks at me. Well, this is decadent, useless, and might just make me throw up a little. Very capital. Your outfit suggests that's your thing now. Your outfit suggests a blind person dressed you, I say. We are either joking around, which is good, or I might be making an enemy, which is sort of not good. She grins and I'm let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. Told you I hate my stylist. We chit-chat while stuffing our faces and are more or less left alone, considering Johanna looks about ready to murder anyone who steps too close to us. Or maybe it's because Finnegan just showed up, which wipes pretty much everyone else off the plate in terms of public interest. Either way, I'm glad for the break. He is immediately swamped and seems to bask in the attention. I watch him for a while and can't help frowning. There's sponsor charming and then there's sponsor charming. Finnick's definitely doing the latter. Doesn't he have a girl back home? Effie and Johanna follow my gaze and Johanna talks over Effie's reply. He's in the capital, he's owned by Snow. Easy as that. What do you mean? I ask, frowning. What does Snow have to do with this? Johanna stares at me in disbelief, then turns to Effie. She doesn't know. Know what? I demand. Effie fixes Seven's Victor with a deadly glare. She doesn't need to know. Don't you dare tell her, Mason. Don't you think she has a right to know? If nothing changes, she'll end the same way, Johanna says, giving me a look full of pity before glaring at Effie in turn. My escort's face darkens. People around us start shooting us looks. They can't possibly hear them over the music, but their body language speaks volumes. I look around for help and find Haymitch and Chaff moving towards us. I don't quite understand what is happening, but it can't be good. They can't cause a scene here. This can't end well. Johanna, as Seven's only living female victor, probably has nothing to fear. But escorts. Escorts are easily replaced. Effie, I put a hand on her arm but she doesn't turn to me. Effie, please. She's only 13, Effie snaps. Johanna shrugs, an ugly sneer on her face. So she has a year or two. You know he likes to start them young. Before anything else can happen, Haymitch steps up to us, grabbing Effie's arm and pulling her a few steps back from Johanna. Ladies Chaff greets us lightly. No one responds. Johanna grabs his glass and empties it. I strain my ears to make out what Haymitch is muttering. I can't believe, don't antagonize, in public, you know they're watching, any excuse. Most of what he is saying is drowned out by the buzzing of the party, but I get the picture. Effie doesn't bother to keep her voice down, she's literally shaking with rage. She was going to tell Prim about the contracts. Now Haymitch rounds on Johanna. I told you. I told you if you can't play nice you stay away from them. Sure, side with Trinket, Johanna mutters nothing new there. Haymitch looks about ready to kill someone and it's Effie's turn to be reasonable, even though she is still glaring daggers. Haymitch, drop it. Just forget about it. He hesitates, but gives in. Yeah, all right. Chaff, can you keep an eye on the kid? I need some fresh air and I think so does Effie. He pulls her away with him without awaiting a reply. Johanna stares at their retreating backs. Some people just overreact about anything. Maybe you're underreacting, I hiss, finally coming out of my stupor. She can't go around provoking people into losing their cool if that can get them killed. You ever mess with my escort again, I'm gonna. I don't have an end to that sentence but she seems to get the idea. She rolls her eyes and looks to Chaff. Okay, what is it with Trinket and people not finding her annoying? Now the kid too. Haymitch, I get, he isn't exactly using his brain in that department. Whatever else she says goes right by me as I see a capital woman run her fingers through Finnick's hair. He's in the capital, he's owned by Snow. Easy as that. Oh. I suddenly can't breathe. The room is too loud, the air too warm, my hands too sweaty. Without deciding to do so, I push my way through people, wanting nothing more than to get out of here. I can't stay a second longer. I'm out of the giant ballroom by the time Chaff catches up with me. You okay there, kid? I nod without thinking about it, and he stops me in my tracks, bringing his one remaining hand up to gently whip the tears I hadn't even noticed from my face. You sure about that? I let myself sink against him, crying into his chest. How can he? Chaff doesn't reply, knowing there is nothing he can say to make this any easier. Instead, he wraps his arms around me and lets me cry. I can't say why this hits me so hard. Snow has personally threatened me and everyone I love. I have seen people executed for showing their solidarity to me, seen what happened to Darius for standing up for my sister. I have been in the arena. I know he controls who lives and who dies. I just didn't realize how completely in his power we are. Even our bodies are his to command over as he pleases. It'll be fine, Chaff says gruffly, patting my back slightly awkwardly. We won't ever even let it get to that. Ain't that so, little Mockingjay? I nod weakly against his chest, reminding myself that I've got to pull myself together. There's Katniss to think of, and Madge, and whatever Haymitch and the others are planning that I am not privy to. Straightening up and managing a smile, I wipe my eyes. Glancing at Chaff's shirt, I wince at the wet stain I left on it. Sorry about that. He only shrugs and laughs. They'll all assume I spilled something on me, if they even notice. I'm usually drunk by this point. Let's find your escort, yeah. Have her fix your face. Chaff and I go to find Haymitch and Effie, which doesn't take long as Chaff correctly guesses where they are on the first try. The group of friends around Haymitch apparently has figured out the best hiding spots around here years ago. They are on a small balcony, standing close together and discussing something urgently. Chaff clears his throat loudly to announce our arrival and they spin around to face us, relaxing as they see who it is. Haymitch grabs my chin and turns my face towards his, scowling. Hell, Chaff, I said keep an eye on her, not make her cry. She did that all by herself, the victor from 11 replies, raising his hands in defense. Although Johanna helped, I guess. Little one figured it out. I'm about to protest at being referred to as little one when I'm cut off by Effie swooping down on me in full mother hen mode. I let her fret over me for a bit, admittedly quite liking her mollycoddling me, before untangling myself from her gently. We should get back, shouldn't we? I ask, even though I don't want to. Can't have everyone else stealing all our sponsors. Effie decides she'll be in charge of sponsors for the moment while Haymitch takes me with him to establish alliances. In the end, it's always down to the tributes, of course, but most tend to listen to their mentors, and this year, it is especially important that the victors have a certain amount of control over who allies with whom. Even though I don't know the plan, I can see that one person at the wrong place at the wrong time could mess everything up. Needless to say, I let Haymitch take the lead. The first victor we approach is Clove and Olive's aunt Terra Hayden, nicknamed Terra. I've seen replays of her games, the nickname is very appropriate. Without other people's blood splattered over her and not holding a sword, she actually seems quite pleasant. Still, I let Haymitch do most of the talking. They hardly even mention the games, alliances don't come up at all. But at the end of the conversation, Terra smiles, raising an eyebrow in question. So, 12 and 2, huh? The audience will go wild, Haymitch replies, a smirk on his face. All I can do is smile along, because I honestly have no idea what happened. Thank God I'll never have to properly learn how to mentor. If all goes well, that is. Or as well as rebellions can go. Katniss. After Madge and I spent some time at the sword fighting station, Amphitrite wandered off at some point. We make our way towards lunch. So, anyone you want? Madge asks and I shrug. Avalon maybe. And Curie, I guess. She gives me an odd look. Really? I mean, they seem sweet, but sweet isn't much an ally quality, is it? Obviously, she's right. But I still feel defensive. This whole thing has me on edge since before the reaping. Avalon's brave and she's smart. They both are. Curie's just different. Well, I agree that Avalon's smart, Madge replies, grabbing a plate and handing me one. She's District 3 and all. Still, no one takes them seriously, really. Olive nicknamed them Brains and Jabberjay. At my puzzled expression at the second nickname, she elaborates. The things Curie says, they're all quotes. Poems, books, songs. She lowers her voice. Lots of pre-cataclysm stuff, too. She shouldn't even know half of it. Then again, neither should I. I don't really know what to do with that piece of information, so I just go ahead and load my plate before turning to survey the room. The girls from District 1 sit at a table with Diana from 2, Marina from 4 and Johnsa from 6. Everyone else is mostly sticking to themselves. Well, except for Amphitrite Adair, who waves overly enthusiastically as she catches my eye. Katniss. Madge. Over here. Resigned to having to ally with her, I make my way over with Madge. Well, Amphitrite isn't the worst possible person to ally with, I suppose. And Prim said I should. If not for any other reason, I'll do it for her. The career alliance is not working out so well this year, huh, the girl from 4 says without even waiting for us to sit down properly. They still think I might join them, saw no reason to tell them no outright. But Olive apparently told Diana to, and I'm quoting here, stick it where the sun doesn't shine almost as soon as they got on the train. I can't help myself, I let out a snort of laughter. Maybe Olive is an ally worth considering, after a. Plus, I'm pretty sure Madge and Prim will make me ally with her no matter what I say. Just at that moment, a tray full of food is set down next to mine. Hey, losers. Okay, so maybe I spoke too soon. Madge smiles. Hey, Olive. Kentwell Amphitrite says, but she sounds good-natured enough. Olive grins at her. Glamour's giving you the stink eye, Adair. Talking to a traitor to the Alliance and all. Amphitrite turns around and blows a kiss to the girl from 1, then turning back to us. So, seen anything you like yet? Not already at this table, I mean. Demeter seems competent. Olive offers the darkish one from 9. It feels weird discussing the other tributes like this, assessing them and making guesses about their skills and how long they might survive. It's what the capital citizens do and it doesn't sit right with me. But then again, this is about survival, not about some bet for fun. I still mostly keep quiet as the discussion carries on. I was thinking Willow, maybe Madge remarks at one point. Olive Kentwell shakes her head. Nah, 7's useless this year. Says who? Demands Amphitrite. Says me, Olive replies without a care in the world. Oh, and Johanna Mason. Hopeless, she called them, to be exact. This is followed by stunned silence for a few seconds. The girl from 4 is the one to break it. Johanna Mason discussed her tributes with you. What the hell? Olive smirks, looking absurdly proud of herself. Well, not everyone relies solely on connections, you know. We're not all related to Finnick Adair. Is this going to be a who has the most impressive relatives/connections contest? Madge interjects lightly. Because I think Katniss would win that on account of the whole youngest Victor ever thing her sister has going on. Amphitrite giggles. The little usurper. Don't think Finnick forgave her yet. And that's the way all of lunch goes. I'm oddly glad once we're shooed out of the cafeteria and back to training. This is why I usually eat alone with Madge. Small talk is horrible, I'd rather prepare for my imminent death. Or, well, imminent unless Haymitch's plan works, whatever it is. But unless our safety can be found at the bottom of a bottle of liquor, I'm not overly confident. The 3-day training phase is over much too soon, even though I am glad to have a short break from being around all those sponsors. Katniss and Madge should return from their sessions with the game makers any minute, so Effie, Haymitch and I are back at the penthouse, waiting for them. Portia and Cinna join us before long. I hope they do well, but I'm pretty confident they will. They are about as trained as you can get without actually being a career from our months of preparation, Katniss having years of hunting to top it all of. And the training went very well so far. Even my sister more or less accepted Amphitrite as an ally, though she is still very opposed to Olive. We'll have to figure something out on that front. But now, their training scores are the bigger concern. Katniss, true to her word, didn't shoot in training, but she did get her hands on a bow under pretense of checking out Olive's skills, and she said the construction is off from what she uses at home, so I hope she can shoot all right. Johanna Mason told me her tributes seem pretty impressed by both Madge and Katniss in training, so that's good, too. Even though Johanna wasted no time in pointing out that those two would probably be impressed by someone knowing which end of a sword to grab, so maybe not the best indicator. But Johanna is chronically pessimistic, so she might just be exaggerating. Plus, no one in their right mind would not pay attention to 12 this year, so they have it easier than most years on that front. None of this makes me any less nervous, though, and I am pacing by the time Madge and Katniss finally get back. How'd it go? I demand the second the elevator opens. Effie clucks her tongue in disapproval. Let them sit down, Prim. Dinner's about to be served. We all move to the dining room, and once the soup is served, Haymitch reiterates my question. All right, so how did your private sessions go? Both of them shrug, Madge gesturing for Katniss to speak first. Dunno, I shot some arrows, she says, seemingly more interested in her soup. I hit the targets, if that's what you're asking. Lucky I checked out the bows before, they are very different here. There's a short pause as everyone waits for her to elaborate, but it quickly becomes clear she doesn't intend to. And she looks at me at that. And what? The game makers. Did they say anything? I ask. Katniss shakes her head. Just thanked me and said I could leave. But they seemed happy enough. Well, that is more than 12 can usually expect, Effie says, smiling brightly as she turns to Madge. And what about you, dear? Much the same as Katniss, my friend replies. Replace the bow and arrows with a javelin and you pretty much have my session summed up. Though Katniss probably aims better than I do. Katniss smiles at her. They saw you do the obstacle course in training, though. You've got me shown up there. Actually, you showed up everyone. She turns to talk to the whole table. Seriously, best time out of all the tributes. She had 13 seconds on that Sapphire girl from 1. The careers actually tried to get her to ally with them after that. Madge grins deviously. I said I'd think about it. They've been very nice to me since. They have that girl from 6, 2 Katniss adds, and Haymitch shakes his head. In my day, the careers would have never allied with 12, I tell you, back then. You had to walk barefoot through the snow, uphill both ways to find allies. I interrupt him innocently. I don't need him going on some rant about unlikely alliances and their disadvantages with Katniss still wary of my ally choices for her. Haymitch turns to me, perplexed. What? I believe Prim just called you an old, rambling coot, Effie says helpfully, and Katniss actually giggles. Portia takes up the conversation as if nothing's happened. Well, they have to get up their numbers somehow, with Olive Cantwell out of the Alliance and Amphitrite likely not joining either. Definitely not joining, Madge corrects. She's with us. Right, Katniss. My sister makes a non-committal grunting noise at this, which is an improvement from when she flat out refused any allies other than Madge. I still want Avalon. I know Madge sighs, but that would mean Curie too. And Amphitrite refuses to ally with both of them. So does Olive, by the way. Besides, how would we get away from the cornucopia with 6 of us? We could hold the cornucopia with 6 of us, my sister argues. She has a point, there, but Haymitch said to make sure they don't go through with that, so I argue. With 6 fighters, yeah. But you wouldn't be. And you'd be right there out in the open, having slighted the careers even more than by just stealing Amphitrite from them and being sponsor favorites. They'd not think about anything but killing you until either you or their alliance would be completely wiped out. They'd basically have no other choice than to target you. Cinna interrupts our discussion with a smile. The scores are about to be announced. Shall we move to the living room? We do, and anxiously await their results. The scores bring no real surprises. The careers score between 8 and 10 as usual. Johnson gets an 8 as well. Hitch must secure her spot in their alliance. Low to medium scores for everyone else. Then, finally, our district is up. Madge, having been reaped second and therefore taking all the spots usually occupied by the boy tribute, is up first. She scores a 9, Portia throwing her arms around her at the same time as me. Then Katniss's face is on screen, accompanied by a flashing 10. This year, there'll be 2 real alliances. I'm not a Mockingjay today, I say, turning in front of the mirror, careful not to knock anything over with my wings. I'd guess I'm supposed to be an angle, but my attire is somewhat too dark for that. I look like I'm created out of night and determination. What am I? Nemesis Sinner replies as if that should explain everything. Don't you know her in 12? At the shake of my head, he elaborates. Oh, they do here in the capital. And the career districts as well as 9 and 10. Not sure about the other districts. Nemesis is the goddess of divine retribution. Oh, is all I can say to that. Sinner seems determined to get himself killed with the clothes he puts me in. As if the Mockingjay dress wasn't bad enough. That's nice. He kisses my forehead but doesn't reply. He must know what he has done to himself. Once I meet everyone else at the elevator, I realize that he and Portia have doomed themselves in more ways than one. Katniss is in a red plaid dress, her hair in 2 braids instead of 1. No one in the capital will have forgotten the story of how Peter fell in love with her, nor anyone in the districts. Apart from me, Peter must be another rallying point for the rebels. His death was the ultimate defiance to the games and thus Snow's regime. Plus, the Capitolites will likely take it as some romantic statement, which can't hurt in terms of sponsors. Madge is in a dress that makes her look like a princess and can only be described as retro chic. Even if I had never seen the footage of Maysilee's own interview, Haymitch's skull and the looks Effie throws Portia would have told me that Madge never looked more like her dead aunt than she does at this very moment. Their outfits are a reminder of just how long these games have been destroying families. Snow will have a stroke. Actually, that would be awesome. I giggle beside myself. Everyone stares at me at my inappropriate behavior. Sorry. Nerves. I remember I had an almost hysteric laughing fit with Peter after our opening ceremony. Uncalled for laughter seems to be my go-to reaction to stressful situations. I shake the thought away as we enter the elevator. Sitting in the stands is somehow even worse than being interviewed myself. I have no idea what anyone might say or do. I have absolutely no control over the situation. Johanna Mason plops down in the empty seat next to me. Why on earth are you dressed as a Drastai? Are you trying to get the game makers even more onto your sister's case? What is an Adrastai? I ask instead of acknowledging her question. Cinna leans across me, smiling. Other name for Nemesis. Good to see you know her in 7, Johanna. Johanna just mumbles something in return that sounds suspiciously like Death Wish. Then Sapphire from District 1 is up and the interviews start. I barely pay attention until it's Olive Cantwell's turn. I must ask Caesar, say, how does it feel to have the sister of last year's victor here with you in light of your own sister's participation in the 74th games? Olive just stares at him and then shrugs. I dunno. Doesn't make Clove any more or less dead, does it? That was clearly not the answer he was expecting, but Caesar presses on. Are you seeking revenge? Revenge? Olive echoes. Like, kill Katniss to get back at her sister. Doesn't really make sense, does it? Because if I want to get revenge on the person who killed my sister by killing her sister, that would be, well, me. Haymitch snorts a few seats over, Johanna's laughing too. I can just stare as Olive paints a pretty target for the game makers on her own back. Caesar seems completely lost for the first time in all the years I've seen him doing interviews. But then Olive steers the conversation into calmer waters herself. I'm going to walk out of that arena alive, though. You'll see, it'll be a blast. Curie, looking very sweet but incredibly young in her interview dress, just stares at the crowd wide-eyed, as if she isn't aware of Caesar at all. Then she speaks, seemingly to no one in particular. No coward soul is mine. No trembler in the world's storm-troubled sphere. I see heaven's glories shine. And faith shines equal, arming me from fear. O God within my breast. Almighty ever-present deity. Life, that in meest rest. As I undying life, have power in thee. Vain are the thousand creeds that move men's hearts, unutterably vain. Worthless as withered weeds. Or idlest froth amid the boundless main. To waken doubt in one holding so fast by thy infinity, socially anchored on the steadfast rock of immortality, with wide embracing love. Thy spirit animates eternal years, pervades and broods above, changes, sustains, dissolves, creates and rears. Though earth and moon were gone, and suns and universes ceased to be, and thou wert left alone, every existence would exist in thee. There is not room for death, nor atom that his might could render void, since thou art being and breath, and what thou art may never be destroyed. That was very beautiful, Caesar tells her. I think he means it, he's always so good with the tributes. I myself can't help but wonder whether Curie was talking to me, the mockingjay. Thy spirit animates eternal years, and what thou art may never be destroyed. Avalon is certain to have sponsors. She is showered in applause the second she walks onto stage. A volunteer from 3, that's almost never seen. And she's beautiful, almost looks a woman grown with the gown and makeup, and I now know why they want pretty victors. Bile rises in my throat and I force myself to focus on the interview instead. You can win by outsmarting the others, Avalon says, and, no offense to anyone, but I'm probably the smartest tribute here, so don't count me out. It seems like it's no time at all that Katniss is on stage. How do you feel having Miss Undus in the games with you? Caesar asks her. You are friends, are you not? Katniss somehow manages not to look angry, but more tragical and brave. She's my best friend, so it's pretty hard. And my other best friend, Gale, he's in love with her, so that makes it worse. Not to mention Peter. Her voice cracks, and I'm sure my sister is not that good an actress. My heart clenches at her obvious hurt. Him and Madge were as good as siblings, really. He saved my sister, who knows, maybe I'll manage to save his. And the audience goes wild at this, a hush falling when Caesar speaks again. How did you recover from losing Peter? My sister stares at him blankly, a slight look of confusion on her face. Who says I have? Kashmir leans forward in the row behind to whisper in my ear, amazing strategy, Fire Girl. But I didn't tell Katniss to say any of this. Then Madge is up, the last of the tributes to be interviewed. She's perfect, because how couldn't she be after years of acting the way the Capitol wants her to because of her father's job? They chat a bit before Caesar turns solemn. So, tell me, what did your boyfriend say when he came to say goodbye to you? The Capitol is somehow obsessed with doomed romance, it seems. Gale's not my boyfriend, Madge corrects, and confusion crosses Caesar's face. Madge leans closer to him. Can you keep a secret, Caesar? He nods, as if the whole country isn't watching, mimicking her in leaning forward. Madge pulls a thin silver necklace out of her collar, a simple ring attached to it. That was his mother's. He asked me to marry him. I don't know if that's true or if they just came up with it for sponsors, but that's definitely Hazel's ring. I've seen it enough times to recognize it as they show it on the big screen. There's sighing and clapping and sobbing from the crowd at her confession, much like there was when Peter declared his love for Katniss last year. Madge continues talking as if nothing were happening. So obviously, I'll do my best to make it home to him. We really haven't had enough time together yet. But Caesar presses, should the unthinkable happen, wouldn't you say a short time of happiness is better than no time? I'm sure I'd think that, too, Madge says, tears pooling in her eyes. The audience hangs on her every word, you could hear a pin drop. If it weren't, she breaks off, as if it all were just too much to bear. Her hand flutters up to rest on her stomach. If it weren't for the baby. And all hell breaks loose. Fucking hell, Johanna Mason breathes out next to me, and that just about sums it all up. The Capitolites are going absolutely insane, even as the tributes are being ushered off stages. While we're still in a stupor, Effie takes charge, maneuvering us all towards the elevator, even Johanna. If she's willing to take Johanna along, this might just be even more serious than I thought. Reporters push against the crowd towards us and me just about make it into the elevator, electing to ignore that Kashmir and Finnick were just about to get on it. Their tributes did not just cause pandemonium, and we haven't had time to get our stories straight. Did you know she would do that? Effie hisses as soon as the elevator closes behind us. Haymitch, who seems torn between being amused and completely stressed out, shakes his head. You have to admit, princess, it made an impact. Hello, Terra, I interrupt what seems to be about to turn into a fight. Haymitch and Effie spin around to look at the victor they hadn't noticed was even there. She gives me a nod and a smirk. I was hoping to have a word with Finnick before you hijacked the elevator. Very rude, you know. Then again, your girls just took the heat off of my niece, which is nice. She rolls her eyes and throws her hands up dramatically. Liv always runs her mouth. Really, it's like she has no sense of self-preservation whatsoever. I thought she was quite funny, really, Johanna says, wearing a smirk of her own. I know I'm supposed to back Seven and all, but I'm kinda rooting for your niece. I like her. You would, Effie mutters under her breath. Johanna turns to her, eyebrows raised. Meaning? My escort flashes a red so bright you would have likely seen it under last year's powder, which has thankfully gone out of fashion. She throws Haymitch a look, but he doesn't say anything to help, apparently rather enjoying letting her squirm. I, for my part, don't know what to say. Well, Effie says, throwing Terra an apologetic look, she's a little rough around the edges. Rude and cocky, Terra puts in helpfully, like you, Mason. Trinket has a point. Although Liv isn't as bitter, I'd say. Johanna sighs heavily. Okay, why is everyone ganging up on me? Terra only laughs, moving to get off the elevator as the doors open to her floor. Pausing, she gives first Haymitch and then me a pointed look. See you in the mentors' rooms. Soon we're at our own floor and we immediately rush towards Katniss and Madge. Is it true? No one has to ask what I mean. Madge only shakes her head, fiddling with the ring attached to her necklace. Made it up. All of it? Haymitch asks, pointedly glancing at the ring. She drops it as if it burned her and doesn't answer. Which, really, is answer enough. Effie smacks my mentor on the arm. Really, Haymitch, leave her alone. He looks like he wants to argue, but Cinna and Portia arrive at that moment and that effectively ends the conversation. Later, after we've watched the replays of the interviews, I'm alone with Katniss in her room. Madge has gone to her own room, even though we invited her over as well. I think she doesn't want to intrude on what could be my last evening with my sister if things go wrong. But I can't afford to think like that. About allies, I say, and Katniss sighs, but she doesn't protest. I pull out a pin Cinna gave me earlier today. A primrose in a round, gold frame, a small mockingjay in the middle instead of the stigma. Cinna's made only 2 of those. No one else but us and Haymitch has ever even seen it. The tribute who has the other one has to be your ally, no matter what. Understood. Understood, little duck, my sister replies, luckily not questioning me any further. I honestly don't know who has the other pin. I have my suspicions, but it was Haymitch who passed it on. I don't know how much Katniss trusts him yet, so it's better if I don't have to tell her it wasn't me who picked her most vital ally. I myself would not only trust Haymitch with my life, but with Katniss's and Madge's, too, so I believe he knows what he is doing. Pushing away all thoughts of that kind, I curl up in bed with Katniss. Her arms wrap around me comfortably and, without me having to ask, she sings for me. Katniss. I'm not sure I have slept when Cinna arrives with the dawn. He looks pained, even though I can tell he is trying to hide it. 5 minutes. I nod and he leaves me to wake up Prim. It's time, little duck. She clings onto me as if she has no intention of releasing me ever again, choking back a sob. It'll be fine, she says, but I'm not sure who she's trying to reassure. Just stick with Madge and your allies and stay alive. Okay. Just stay alive. Course I will, I tell her. I'm not as confident in whatever Haymitch's plan might be, but I can hardly say that. I love you, Prim. You have to be strong, okay? I'll be very cross if I come back to Haymitch complaining. She laughs a little at that and I kiss her forehead, untangling myself from her hug. Forcing myself not to hesitate, I get out of bed and into the hallway to Cinna. Cinna, who will help dress me for the games, accompanies me to the roof. A hovercraft arrives to collect us. The electric current freezes me in place on the ladder until the doctor injects the tracker into my left forearm, just like Prim described. Now they will always be able to locate me in the arena. The hovercraft takes off, and I look out the windows until they black out. Sinner keeps pressing me to eat and, when that fails, to drink. When we reach the launch room at the arena, I shower. Sinner braids my hair down my back and helps me dress over simple undergarments. This year's tribute outfit is a fitted blue jumpsuit, made of very sheer material, that zippers up the front. A 6-inch wide padded belt covered in shiny purple plastic. A pair of nylon shoes with rubber soles. What do you think? I ask, holding the fabric out for Sinner to examine. He frowns as he rubs the thin stuff between his fingers. I don't know. It will offer little in the way of protection from cold or water. Sun? I ask, picturing a burning sun over a barren desert. Possibly. If it's been treated, he says. Then we just sit together, holding hands until the voice tells me to prepare for the launch. He walks me over to the circular metal plate and zips up the neck of my jumpsuit securely. Remember, Katniss, he says, all you need to do is stay alive. He kisses my forehead and steps back as the glass cylinder slides down around me. Thank you, I say, although he probably can't hear me. I lift my chin, holding my head high the way he always tells me to, and wait for the plate to rise. But it doesn't. And it still doesn't. I look at Sinner, raising my eyebrows for an explanation. Maybe this is normal. He just gives his head a slight shake, as perplexed as I am. Why are they delaying this? Suddenly the door behind him bursts open and 3 peacekeepers spring into the room. 2 pin Sinner's arms behind him and cuff him while the 3rd hits him in the temple with such force he's knocked to his knees. But they keep hitting him with metal-studded gloves, opening gashes on his face and body. I'm screaming my head off, banging on the unyielding glass, trying to reach him. The peacekeepers ignore me completely as they drag Sinner's limp body from the room. All that's left are the smears of blood on the floor. Sickened and terrified, I feel the plate begin to rise. I'm still leaning against the glass when the breeze catches my hair and I force myself to straighten up. Just in time, too, because the glass is retreating and I'm standing free in the arena. Something seems to be wrong with my vision. The ground is too bright and shiny and keeps undulating. I squint down at my feet and see that my metal plate is surrounded by blue waves that lap up over my boots. Slowly I raise my eyes and take in the water spreading out in every direction. My heart is hammering uncontrollably in my chest, it feels like Sinner's name is still stuck in my throat. I can't think. I can't breathe. I can't. Ladies and gentlemen, let the 75th Hunger Games begin. The voice of Claudius Temple Smith, the Hunger Games announcer, hammers my ears, jolts me back into reality. I have less than a minute to get my bearings. Then the gong will sound and the tributes will be free to move off their metal plates. But move where? I can't think straight. The image of Sinner, beaten and bloody, consumes me. Where is he now? What are they doing to him? Torturing him? Killing him? Turning him into an Avox? Obviously his assault was staged to unhinge me, the same way Darius's presence in my quarters was. And it has unhinged me. All I want to do is collapse on my metal plate. But I can hardly do that after what I just witnessed. I must be strong. I owe it to Sinner, to Prim, to Madge. Most of all, I owe it to Peter. I have to stay alive to help my sister bring down the games that killed him. Where are you? I can still make no sense of my surroundings. Where are you? I demand an answer from myself and slowly the world comes into focus. Blue water. Pink sky. White hot sun beating down. All right, there's the cornucopia, the shining gold metal horn, about 40 yards away. At first, it appears to be sitting on a circular island. But on closer examination, I see the thin strips of land radiating from the circle like the spokes on a wheel. I think there are 10 to 12, and they seem equidistant from one another. Between the spokes, all is water. Water and a pair of tributes. I can't see Madge. She must be on the other side of the golden horn. I have to find her once the games really begin. That's it, then. There are 12 spokes, each with 2 tributes balanced on metal plates between them. The other tribute in my watery wedge is Olive Cantwell, who is staring at me rather than the arena. That is such an odd thing to do that I forget to focus and stare at her in return. The second she realizes she has my attention, she slowly lifts her hand and pats something just above her heart. I have to squint to make it out, but it can only be one thing. Prim's pin. I promised my sister. I give Olive a nod and she returns it. Then I turn my focus back to what really matters. When the gong sounds, I don't even hesitate before I dive to my left. It's a longer distance than I'm used to, and navigating the waves takes a little more skill than swimming across my quiet lake at home, but my body seems oddly light and I cut through the water effortless. Maybe it's the salt. I pull myself, dripping, onto the land strip and sprint down the sandy stretch for the cornucopia. I can see no one else converging from my side, although the gold horn blocks a good portion of my view. I don't let the thought of adversaries slow me down, though. I'm thinking like a career now, and the first thing I want is to get my hands on a weapon. Stay alive. My eyes instantly home in on a golden bow just in arm's reach and I yank it free. There's someone behind me. I'm alerted by, I don't know, a soft shift of sand or maybe just a change in the air currents. I pull an arrow from the sheath that's still wedged in the pile and arm my bow as I turn. Amphitrite, glistening and gorgeous, stands a few yards away, with a trident poised to attack. A net dangles from her other hand. She's smiling a little, but the muscles in her upper body are rigid in anticipation. You can swim, too, she says. Where did you learn that in District 12? We have a big bathtub, I answer. You must, she says. And then down. I react without thinking about it, dropping low at the urgency in her voice. The trident goes whizzing over my head and there's a sickening sound of impact as it finds its target. I turn to see one of the girls from 8 collapse. There's no time to be shocked. I work the sheath of arrows free. Each take one side. I say. She nods, and I dart around the pile. About 4 spokes apart, Diana and Glamour are just reaching land. Either they are slow swimmers or they thought the water might be laced with other dangers, which it might well be. Sometimes it's not good to consider too many scenarios. But now that they're on the sand, they'll be here in a matter of seconds. Anything useful? I hear Amphitrite shout. I quickly scan the pile on my side and find maces, swords, bows and arrows, tridents, knives, spears, axes, metallic objects I have no name for, and nothing else. Weapons. I call back. Nothing but weapons. Same here, she confirms. Grab what you want and let's go. I shoot an arrow at Diana, who's gotten in too close for comfort, but she's expecting it and dives back into the water before it can find its mark. The girl from 1 follows her, but I manage to sink an arrow into her arm. I sling an extra bow and a second sheath of arrows over my body, slide 2 long knives and an awl into my belt, and meet up with Amphitrite at the front of the pile. I want to look for Madge, but there's my ally from 2 to think about as well. She's still on her plate for some reason. I don't think Kentwell can swim, I tell Amphitrite. You got that while I look for Madge? The girl from 4 nods. Sure. Get her or drown her. I think she might be joking, but I can't be sure. Get her. No drowning allies. Amphitrite only laughs and launches back into the water. I raise my bow, warding off any attackers from the cornucopia, but no one seems interested in pursuing us. Sure enough, Sapphire, Glamour, Diana, Marina, and Johnsa have gathered, their pack formed already, picking over the weapons. A quick survey of the rest of the arena shows that most of the tributes are still trapped on their plates. I move around slowly, keeping the pack as well as my allies in sight. Where the hell is Madge? That's when I hear her scream. Covering Amphitrite forgotten, I sprint towards the sound of her voice. I arrive in time to see her pulling a knife from her arm, one of the girls from 5 dead at her feet. She stabbed me, Madge says as if in explanation. Whether she's explaining why she screamed, the wound on her arm, or why she killed that girl, I couldn't tell. So I just nod. Right. Come on. We circle back around the cornucopia to where Olive and Amphitrite are just getting out of the water. Let's go, I yell at them, but Olive sprints right by me. 1 second, Everdeen. I still need my weapons. Hey, Madge, the girl from 4 says lightly, as if we just met in school between classes. You have a little. She gestures to her cheek and Madge raises her hand to wipe off what seems to be blood. She stares at it as if she doesn't quite understand how it got there before hastily wiping it on her jumpsuit. Thanks. Hi, Amphitrite. Olive comes sprinting back to us, knives clanking on her belt and a blooded axe in hand. She sees my look and her smile only widens. Never stand between a Kentwell and her weapons. She learned her lesson. Can we go now? Not like it's you we were waiting for, Amphitrite says, and we run away from the cornucopia. Soon after Katniss and Madge had to leave, Effie makes sure Haymitch and I get ready for the day. During breakfast the elevator chimes and we all freeze. It's too early for the stylists to be back yet. Surprise visitors are rarely a good thing when you're a victor. Even less so when you're singled out as the cause of rebellion. Haymitch's knife is in his hand almost instantly and we all wait, barely even daring to breathe. It's Finnick who wanders into the room. Melody's annoying me to no end. Is she with the Alliance or not? What is your cousin up to? Couldn't take it anymore, so here I. He trails off as he catches sight of us, Haymitch with a knife in hand, Effie clutching onto me so hard it hurts, my own hands clasped around the table edge to keep them from shaking. Oh. Finnick. Of course, it's Effie who remembers her manners again first. We weren't expecting you. Come, sit down. Do you want some coffee? We eat in silence for a bit, then Finnick breaks it. We're making 12's mentor room headquarters, yeah. Because I think Barrier is hosting the careers, so we could technically use ours, but you never know who comes in, really. Ours is fine, Haymitch replies. So Amphitrite must definitely be allying with Katniss and Madge, otherwise Finnick wouldn't be planning on joining us in our mentor room. I really would prefer if we could handle things from the penthouse, but sadly, it isn't possible. Probably because they want us available for the cameras and all. And this year, there's likely security reasons on top of that. And then it's already time to leave. Chaff gets on the elevator as we ride down, and so does Johanna Mason. Effie is fussing with our outfits, making some last-minute adjustments. A pin in my hair move a few millimeters to the left, Haymitch's collar straighten out, her own skirt smoothed of imaginary wrinkles. And then we're out of the elevator and surrounded by cameras. I stick to telling them only what Effie and Haymitch told me to. Yes, I did know Madge is pregnant. No, I didn't know before the reaping. Yes, I believe my sister intends to keep her safe. Yes, there will be an alliance involving them both. When I run out of scripted replies, I'm not sure what to do. Luckily, Effie politely yet firmly declares my interview to be over and steers me towards the mentor rooms. She gives me a quick tour. There's a dining hall, beds, even showers, so you don't have to leave the proximity of the mentor rooms while the games are in session, and then we go to the end of the hallway to the door marked with a 12. Johanna Mason, for some reason, is still tagging along. I'm certain there is no alliance with her tributes. Haymitch raises his eyebrows at her, too. I'll get bored to death in 7's room, Johanna whines. I'm not even officially mentoring this year, they are Blight and Ash's problem. Can't I just stay? Effie looks like she wants to argue but falls silent as the screens flicker to life. There's 3, one with the national broadcast, one with Katniss and one with Madge. Just then, Finnick joins us, lugging along what must be Amphitrite's screen. What's wrong with Katniss? I ask immediately. My sister looks like she saw a ghost, panic is written clear on her face and she's visibly shaking. Haymitch frowns. Whatever it is, she better get a grip and fast. Luckily, she does just that, surveying the arena and locking eyes with Olive Kentwell. And there's the pin. The minute seems to be over faster than possible. I swear I was on my metal plate much longer last year. As Katniss jumps into the water without a second thought, my heart almost stops until Caesar Flickerman informs us that there is nothing dangerous in it. The door opens again. Sorry I'm late, Tara Hayden says, placing a 5th screen next to Madge's. On it, Olive seems frozen. Tara rubs her temples and sighs. It had to be water. It just had to be freaking water. Katniss'll get her, I say without thinking about it. I can only hope she will. The person with the pin is the most vital ally. We watch in silence as the games begin to unfold in front of us. Amphitrite killing that girl from 8, Katniss shooting at Diana and Glamour, Amphitrite going for Olive, Madge killing the girl from 5, Olive killing one of the girls from 11. Claudius Templar Smith is jabbering on excitedly the first 3 kills within the same alliance, and that alliance not being the traditional career alliance on top of that. Finnick. Terra gets up and, with a nod, so does the victor from 4. Haymitch moves to do the same, but Finnick stops him. They'll want to see the kid. Sorry. You keep an eye on the girls, yeah. Only now do I understand. More interviews. Flanked by Terra and Finnick, I go face the cameras once more. I put on my most dazzling smile. I told you there'd be a fun alliance. By the time we finally make it back to the mentor room, my cheeks hurt from smiling. Finnick plops down next to Johanna. What did we miss? Basically just a lot of running. Johanna replies they showed the bloodbath a lot. On screen, Katniss's alliance is walking through what seems to be a jungle, lightly chatting, even though they all still have their weapons in hand. My sister in particular looks awfully tense. Nevertheless, Haymitch sighs heavily. Do they realize they are not on a school field trip? Career behavior. Finnick and Terra reply at the same time. And it's true, you always see the career pack acting as if they are just hanging out with friends. The game makers must want to give our alliance that image, because the national broadcast switches to them now. Underscore 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 underscore. Didn't peck you for an axe. Girl Amphitrite says no offense, but I thought you'd have something smaller, knives or maybe darts. Yeah, I had knives for a long time, until Olive breaks off and changes tracks. I changed weapons a few years back. Amphitrite grins at her allies blush. Like 4 years back. What happened 4 years ago, my sister demands, obviously annoyed not to be getting it. I have a slight idea where this is going and I'm not sure I like it. Madge chimes in with a smile more like who happened. Olive, giving up on pretending, glares at the rest of the alliance in turn. 1. Axes are awesome. 2. Johanna Mason is amazing. 3. Just cause we're allies doesn't mean I can't kick your sorry asses. Madge just laughs and Amphitrite puts on a sing-song voice. Olive's in love, Olive's in love. Underscore 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 underscore. Okay, is this 3rd grade? Finnick says, unable to hide his smirk. Terra turns to Johanna. Oh, she's 16. What did I do? The victor from 7 demands. Terra shrugs, sizing up the younger victor. Nothing, yet. But you better wipe that smile off your face before I do it for you. Yeah, I knew I didn't like this. Half an hour into the games and everyone is already at everyone's throats. Not that our tributes are making any effort to make it any better. Underscore 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 underscore. That's stupid. Katniss says how could she fall for someone fighting to the death on a TV screen? I think it was meant to support Olive, but the other girl doesn't take it that way. Well, look who's talking, Mrs. Mellock. Katniss lunges for her and Amphitrite just about pulls her back. Madge quickly places herself between them. Enough. Everyone apologize. No one meant to hurt anyone's feelings. Right. The other 3 mumble incoherently in response. Madge sighs. So are we good? Everyone nods and Olive buries her face in her hands. Our responsible voice of reason is Miss Teen Pregnancy. How screwed are we? Underscore 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 underscore. Pretty screwed, I want to say. But then Seven's escort burst in to drag Johanna out for interviews and a bleeping alerts us to incoming sponsor money. There's some for 2, 4 and 12 each, the total added underneath as we are all working together. I stare at the numbers in surprise. Finnick leans over my shoulder and lets out a low whistle. Not screwed at all. They're loving it. Madge. We continue trotting through the jungle and I make sure to stay between Katniss and Olive. We've had quite the terrible start to this all and I really don't want a fight to break out, especially not this early into the games. I'm very hazy on the details but I know that there's some kind of plan and it's apparently important for us to stick with Olive. Amphitrite, too, but the girl from 2 is the priority from what Haymitch told me. Which isn't much at all, really. Do you think they're still fighting or already hunting us? Amphitrite asks suddenly and we all stop, looking towards the cornucopia, which of course we can't see from here. Easy way to find out, Katniss replies, and just like that, she starts scaling a tree.